Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to, I don't even know why that's up there right now, Season 6 and episode number 917 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian, and always, 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 absolutely and completely beaverific. Today, recording day is Thursday, May 28th, 2026, and it is a gorgeous sunny day at the Beaver Lodge, as you can tell by the light on my face. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? I am, oh boy, I'm tired. I'm tired. I've not been sleeping well since we started painting. Um, s- Fumes a little bit. We've been trying to sleep, of course, with the windows open to deal with that, which, of course, has been letting some of the humidity in, and I can't sleep when that happens. So I have not had a good night's sleep in about 2 weeks. Hopefully, today is the final day. We will have someone in the house painting, at least for now. We will still have the two bedrooms to do at some other point. But we have to fix something in the ceiling in one of the bedrooms. And the other bedroom, well, is the one in which I'm doing this. So after 2 weeks of being disrupted, I want a little break from the disruption before I go through more disruption, because I'm not exactly sure how or I'm going to manage to do the show when we actually have to paint this room. So it might have to result in a temporary hiatus or shows done exclusively from the phone, which does not allow me to use clips and stuff like that, which are always a little more tricky to do as shows. So, but yeah, I am as you know, kids, I keep on saying, telling to you, I'm an introvert, and I am tired of having a lot more people around. And I say this ironically because we are planning to go camping this weekend, and my Beaver sweetie and I are going with a friend, which I have to say, uh, of course, a friend whose company we very much do enjoy. Fortunately, a friend who's a little bit more like me, somewhat introverted and a little more calmer and quiet. So, if we have to spend some time with yet more people, that would be the person. So let's just put it that way. So very much looking forward to it, but was really hoping that we would be done yesterday so that we can gather all the stuff, and I could start doing some food prep for the coolers and whatnot today. Without having, to be interrupted every 10 or 15 seconds, 10 or 15 seconds, I'm exaggerating. But, asked for my opinion on something, or to come here, or to stop what I'm doing to consult on something, or all that kind of stuff. I want some quiet, preferably alone, but it is not to be. But camping, nature, disconnecting for a weekend is going to be a very, very good thing. Since I already showed you one QR code, hey, why not try things a little differently today? uh, for people who watch us early and sometimes don't get to the end. If you like our content and would like to support us, this is a QR code that would allow you to do so. We have the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, we call it, where we try to keep your favorite beaver nice and moist because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. So if you like what we do and would like to encourage us to do a little more, just scan that QR code. And if you would like to buy Mr. Grizzly a cup of hot coffee or me a cup of hot chocolate to say add a beaver, add a grizzly. We would really appreciate that, particularly in this age where it seems that we are being throttled and we are still being throttled. Unfortunately, it does not seem that it has ended. Again, our shows are not picking up the amount of views that they used to have. And Twitter keeps on changing the rules every single day. Apparently, today we hit our daily posting limit within between 6 and 6:30 this morning. Half an hour. Apparently, our daily posting limit now is at 12 tweets. It would seem. However, I tried to post this show, and it went about an hour and a half later. So it would seem, doing more research, that there are some post limits. It says that there's a 2,400 post per day count limit. I do not know who hits that unless they're using automated stuff for managing many accounts from one, which includes retweets. There's something else that says, though, that there's a 400 um, post limit for something else. I don't know what. But apparently, when you reach your post limit, it says, well, subscribe to us for like $29 a month and you'll be able to post more, but they don't tell you how much more. And it seems that not only are there post limits per day, but there are post limits per periods of time. And that's where it affects us because let's say we have 1 hour a day to dedicate to our Twitter feed to get all of our tweeting done, with copy and pastes and schedules and whatnot and just simple retweets, we can be rather prolific. And the fact that if I'm at my desktop, I can type about 80 words a minute. Um, we can be prolific in that hour. Well, it seems that at least this morning, uh, 12 tweets, including a couple of retweets within half an hour, was enough to be told that that's your limit for the day. Uh, but yet, uh, an hour and a half later, we were able to post at least the tweet for the show so that people could find us. So we have no idea what is going on with Twitter because they just won't tell us how it is that they've changed their systems, and they won't tell us how much is free, how much you got to pay for, and what you get for your money. They just refuse to tell you that, and they refuse to tell you what the limits per hour or per period is, whether there's a peak period, whether there's not. They don't tell you anything. So I do not know how anybody can plan. I'm a planner, so just let me know what the boundaries of the sound box are, and I will play within them. But they keep changing and they won't tell us what they are, so we have no idea what to do. It just really seems that Twitter has been dedicated to trying to kill every single business that operates on it unless you actually pay them. It seems to be turning into an extortion racket, which, unsurprising considering the players involved, but frick. It's amazing how, like, I should say it's amazing because we're seeing it with Donald Trump. It's just like one freaking person can come along and destroy uh, on a whim things that you've invested 6 years in. 6 years to try to build an audience, and that's just Twitter. I mean, we've been doing this for a while now. We've been doing this since Harper's majority since we started the blog. So I mean, it's while our show's presence on Twitter is only as old as the show itself because we were just a blog and we were never using Twitter to promote our blog. Um, but we started using Twitter to try and promote our shows. Um, if you count back, we're looking at, 12, 13 years of work, and like overnight Twitter can just say, yeah, those 12, 13 years you invested into developing a brand. Yeah, we're just going to kill that. Boom. Again, if this was not a passion project, that I would be financing anyway, like we did when we started it, um, we'd be out of business. We'd be out of business. What's happened over the past month and a half would have completely shut us down. There are probably a lot of people, voices that a lot of people were listening to, that have been completely shut down as a result of what's going on. But they are just literally destroying people's businesses because they can. It's Yeah, I know, Gitmo. It's not just one person. It's a concentrated effort by more than just one. I keep on stumbling across videos, and like, I stumbled across a video. Kit Tavi sent it to me about an account in the United States space that has over 1 million followers. And I'm sure that they actually have staff and people that they employ and whatnot to get the news out. They got this glossy studio. They got well produced stuff. It's not one person, talking to a camera like me trying to produce their own stuff on the fly. They've got people back there. I'm sure these people are paid people to help promote it, and they say like we can maybe continue on like like this for like a month, 2 or 3, but after that, right? So people that are way more successful than us can see the case, how their business could completely fall apart really quickly if this continues. Um, so yeah, when you add it, to the fact, things that we're seeing, Colbert being pulled off the air for allegedly purely financial reasons, and every time that they go after Kimmel, and what's been done to Voice of America in the States, and what's been done to PBS, and what's been done to NPR, um, and what's happening to CBS. Oh my God. Uh, and we have conservatives here every single opportunity they get trying to link everything to CBC and cancel and defund and whatnot. The CBC is there's clearly a push for there to be only one voice out there, just one. And uh, those who control the platforms um, appear appear at the moment to be agreeing with the fact that there should only be one voice. And yeah, it's it's really discouraging. you know, it's I'm I want to say it's not I'm not a revolutionary. I'm not trying to change the world. And well, I mean, I guess I'm not a revolutionary. At least I don't think I'm a revolutionary. I'm just some guy that has some critical thinking skills who happens to love my country and be fascinated with politics. The potential for the good it can do. And the strategy that goes into the parry and thrust of it. But we're with the dedicated effort to make politics as so toxic that nobody wants to participate in it. Um, it's and to just suppress any voice that is not the one that is approved of. It's it's easily discouraging. I mean, that again, that is the goal. That's the strategy for us to get discouraged, throw our hands up and say, well, what's the point? And then just give up. And then, we abandon the complete public square to those who are trying to force us out. So, I mean, the showing up every day and, financing it anyway, even if it's at a loss and whatnot, those become, I guess, revolutionary acts of resistance, if you want to romanticize it. But I'm literally just a guy you know, in a spare bedroom that's doubling as an office, just trying to share my take on the world, not necessarily trying to convince anyone, but, or convert anyone, but just sharing my opinion, hopefully, having some intelligent exchanges with people that either share it or people that disagree, but still intelligent exchanges because, when you have an intelligent exchange with someone with whom you disagree, you can learn a few things. Um, or see where you have a blind spot, or realize that there's a hole in your argument, and then work to shore it up. And it makes you better. If you don't look at it as like somebody not sharing the same opinion as you as a threat, so long as they come correct and politely, of course. You're not supposed to tolerate abuse. Um, That's not a threat, it's a gift, right? It's an opportunity to test what it is you believe, and if you're having a good exchange, the person will also test why it is you believe what you believe. It's important to not only know what you believe, but why you believe it. That's how you can defend your beliefs, but that's also you can when you come across a new piece of information, that's you can verify and doesn't fit in with the why you believe things, you decide to take that piece of information in and slightly alter what you believe. So to bring that in and fit it in and still be, consistent with reality rather than remaining consistent with your original belief. Being challenged is a gift. Confrontation is not necessarily a bad thing, right? If I want one thing and you want one thing and we both can't have what we want, well, then we compromise and hey, maybe we even create a new thing that's even better, right? It's not necessarily bad. Right? There's a lot of people that are afraid of that stuff. I mean, I don't suffer fools lightly, and I don't like it when people waste my time. And I'm very able to end conversations like this is clearly not going to be a serious exchange. Or sorry, it appears you wish to monologue and not actually have a conversation. So I will let you do that, and you enjoy that, and I'll go do all of my thing somewhere else. Actually, try to have an exchange with someone. But if the platforms that we're supposed to be using to communicate with each other are not actually allowing us to communicate, at one point you wonder what the point is. So, I said trying to share information, you know, trying to promote some discussion, trying to create a little bit of community, particularly online where things are negative, trying to create a little bit of toxicity, trying to have a little fun along the way, a little sass, that kind of stuff. But, just not on a mission to go out there and change the world. Right? It's like this show should not be a threat to anyone. It's like 30,000 followers on YouTube. We're not about to change policy here, right? So or take the country in a wild direction that a lot of powerful people don't want to go in. I mean, we just do not have that power. So I'm very confused. I'm very confused by all that's going on, and I am disconcerted. I am a little angry because um, I get a lot out of this too, right? It's not just given. I get a lot out of this. I mean, it's I joke, but I mean, it's not a joke. You're like my orange juice, with breakfast. My daily vitamin C, you know uh, s- my 13 essential vitamins and nutrients that I need to get through the day. And um, it just feels like this whatever this is wants to come into even the tiniest communities to disrupt them. And I just don't understand why we just can't live and let live. You know, um, if people come to this show and don't like what they hear and don't like what they see, they're free to leave. We're not for you. We're not going to think any less of you. It's just we're not for you. There's, I just don't understand the reason when people come in and see something is not for them, that to feel the need to campaign that nobody else can have it either. It's like the World Wide Web is massive. There's room for literally everyone, literally absolutely everything. The darkest, nastiest, most vile things are on there for people who wish to seek them out. And not exactly my cup of tea, but it's out there. There's like literally no need to want to shut someone down. You can find someone if you want an echo chamber. It's not like they're hard to find on the web and in communications these days. So yeah, it's, I will admit, since about April 15th, some days have been harder than others, right? Because it's the same amount of work for us, and so when we see things, again, not tons of views, but when we see shows that used to get like 700 and 800 views, you know, after a couple of days, and we see other shows that they're up for 2 weeks and they've barely cracked 200. It just, like I said, it just kind of kills your motivation and your momentum a little bit because here you are, you think you've got a little good thing going and that you're growing, and then somebody just says, "Nope, that's it." And then it's like, how do you don't even know what the rules of the game are, so how do you figure out what to do, to try and make your way? So, yeah, however this thing is going to last, is however the thing is going to last. I'm put my head down and continue on and try to do my best. But this is not fun. The part trying to figure out how to just remain in contact with the people that I have already established a connection with. Um, if the limit was that you can't get anybody new, that would be terrible. But at least I'd have what I have, and I could keep at least talking to the people that I have. But this is so insidious that it's even going after that as well. So, um, so yeah, my mental health is, like I said, trying to remain positive today. But I'm a I feel feeling today like needless weight has been unnecessarily put on my shoulders, and without my consent. So, um, yeah, I guess that's the mood uh, today. Um, yeah, it's not a good feeling. God, I think I'm on the verge of crying. Oh my God. No, 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 no. That's not what I was going for. Um, my God. Yeah, I think you know what? I think it is. I think it is a yeah, you know what? I think you are right, Nona Carol. If I were to cry, I think it would just be. It's not like the sadness. I think would just be this frustration cry. That happens to us sometimes, where we're just crying, and it's like, why the hell am I crying? And it's just so frustrated that that's how it comes out on any given day. But yeah, it's said it is discouraging, and it does act as a blow, and some days it takes the wind out of me. But I am a stubborn son. I am a very, very stubborn person, so it's going to take a lot to break me, even though I feel the hits, and every now and then need to stop and go, ouch. So, but yeah. Uh, Get Saucy, have you considered an email newsletter once a month to remain connected and remind people you have episodes? That might, again, these are all good ideas. Trying to figure out, of course, as you know, with the changes that we've had with Mr. Grizzly, it's much more of a one person operation than it was, which is also um, a little difficult as well. There was enough work when there were two of us. Now that it's pretty much all me, it's I've uh, again a little overwhelmed, and trying to make everything happen when there are obviously things falling through the cracks, and I can't do it all. So, trying to figure out which choices I should make and what I should let go, and all in the strategy part. That's also very difficult. Like I said, there's a lot going on. I won't lie, kits and cubs. There's a lot going on. Um, Here we have uh, K-pop mom. Many independent podcasters in the U.S. are facing the same issues. Their feeds are getting suppressed. We will always stand behind you guys and hype as much as possible. Thank you, K-pop mom, and that's a new name I hadn't noticed yet in the chat. So thank you so much for joining us again. Um, uh, remember it's share the content. Now we each the audience have to help become the network. So just again, on your social, share, get the content in front of new eyeballs, and of course on the YouTube thing, please click the bell and all so that you can get the notifications, and hopefully at least we'll still be able to keep being in touch. But yes, it's something. And, and please don't be sorry. Thank you, Kid Cassie. Sorry, Douglas. I still try to catch your podcast, but early clinic shifts don't allow me to watch live. That's listen. That's okay. I know that you are doing your bit because I've seen it. I mean, we would not have grown to where we have if it wasn't for that. So I mean, I'm very, uh, very aware, and I thank you, and I'm thanking you for the love here. um, you guys are amazing and wonderful as always. Just like I said, usually I'm chipper, and when I ask how's your mental health, and mine is usually good, and then I'm just today and over the past few weeks really, but today I'm feeling it. Um, I'm just when I got that message again, and it's like it's like you've reached your daily limit, and was a new message, and like yet another new rule change, and it's just like throwing my hands up and just like, "What the oh," right? That was that was the mood coming in, to this. So, I didn't have time to, take a breath and switch over. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding. I know that you are aware of what's going on, but every now and then you just gotta quietly and calmly speak the truth and just name what's going on. Speaking of that, we've had a certain number of people doing that lately. Yesterday, we spoke of Premier Bob Canoe, who quietly and calmly, which made it extremely loud and gave it a lot of weight, which is ironic, but quietly and calmly um, stated the truth that Danielle Smith was incorrect. And again, the specific statement was, "We, I think we know that that's not correct," uh, implying that Danielle Smith, girl, you lying. I know you lying. You know you're lying. We talked about this several times. There is no reason for you to be pretending that you are confused about this anymore. And yet, despite the fact that we've talked about it, here you are at the table with me sitting here, and you still lying. So I am going to interrupt this pattern because we need more pattern interrupters nowadays. Because the media was just going to allow her to stay that line, move on to the next question. So Mr. Canoe came in and interrupted the pattern of letting people spew absolute and utter BS and things that are untrue and call them out on that, teaching us all how to do it calmly and with class, yet firmly, teaching journalists, hey, journalists, is it not your responsibility to get to the truth and to know what the truth is? And when you have someone obviously BSing you or gaslighting you, just calmly picking up the mic and say, "I'm sorry, that's not going to work here. We both know that's not true. Here's what the truth is. Would you like a second chance at answering the question now?" Um, so we saw Premier Canoe do it. There's another person in the United States that recently did this. Um, gentle, whoops, sorry, things just started on their own. Uh, there's a journalist in the United States. um, whose last name is Campos, I believe. I'm not sure what his first name is. Oh, student journalist. Okay. Um, whose name is Santiago Campos, uh, who received a scholarship. Uh, and he received a scholarship. It's $10,000 scholarship um, in the name of Mike Wallace, journalist that was made, who became very, very known uh, for his role on 60 Minutes in particular. And this was during the News Emmys. I didn't even know that there were News Emmy Awards, but there are. And one of the things, now I don't know where all of you have gone all of a sudden. I don't even know if I'm still airing live. That is very weird. Okay, kits and cubs, I am sorry. I do not see anything anymore. So let's see if I am even still on. Yes, I am. Okay. The whole thing just disappeared. So okay, at least I'm still on screen. So he received this award, $10,000 scholarship, and got on stage and decided to share a few words. So,
and that was Scott Pelley. So, first and foremost, I want to thank the Natus Foundation for this award. I want to thank my friends, family, and my teacher, Ashley Porter. She and my mom are in the room tonight. I want to thank them for the resources and the support that I wouldn't be here without. And while I want to thank CBS News for funding this generous gift towards my education, I want to also acknowledge how the recent direction of the outlet stains the legacy of Mike Wallace, the namesake of this scholarship. As corporate elites take hold over the very pipes through which our information flows, journalism that serves the people becomes increasingly harder to come by, yet ever more crucial. And what the people want is the truth. So if at any time you hesitate to utter the word genocide or remain silent in the face of blatant lies, remember to ask yourself, who is this for? I hope you choose us. Thank you. Me, and that was Scott Pelley.
So there you go, kits and cubs. Again, quietly and calmly speaking truth. This word that bears his name. CBS, what the hell are you doing? Right? Again, not a seasoned veteran. A senior. Still studying. Already knows to calmly speak truth to power. Another person who did that yesterday was Mr. Steven Guilbeault, who did announce that he would be stepping down from politics eventually. He will not be sitting as an independent for now. He's going to remain sitting with the party. But he will be he will definitely be leaving. That yelp you heard of joy and pleasure was probably Danielle Smith popping some champagne somewhere. In Alberta. because, well, she despises the man. At least she performs that she despises the man, and has had nary a positive word to say about him ever. In fact, she loves to scapegoat him as the source of all the problems. But I mean, that is Danielle Smith, of course, and she, well, she does not exist unless she is punching down on someone. So that part is not exactly surprising. But the fact is despite everything that Danielle Smith has to say uh, with regard to him, it's there is no doubt whatsoever that uh, he was someone that was absolutely and totally dedicated to the cause, has shown it um, in his, uh, well, pretty much everything that he has done. He has been in the fight for decades. I mean, he's been willing uh, to put his body in the game. He's been willing to get arrested for his beliefs. Um, as he noted in his, um, you put it, noticed, how would you put it? Oh, God. He was, in his statements to the House, you know, he noted that he was an attendee at the very first COP conference that took place in Berlin, COP 1. So can't remember what COP stands for uh, in the environment. Coalition of Parties, I think it is. Conference of the Parties. So he's been in this fight from the get go. I mean, there is no doubting his dedication, there's no doubting his knowledge. Um, Danielle Smith, at that awkward press conference that we were showing yesterday, was asked about it, about his departure. And somebody must have talked to her because she was uncharacteristically um, not loquacious.
My follow-up will be for Daniel Smith. According to some information from Radio Canada, Steven Guilbeault is set to leave politics soon. Would like to have your reaction on that.
I wish him well in his future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm. 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 Well, at least the words coming out of her mouth were polite. I guess that's one of those. Reminds me of an old joke. I think it's a Betty Davis joke. It's like, my mother always told me not to speak ill of the dead. Joan Crawford is dead. Good. Right. One of those. I wish him well. You know. Points for restraint, I guess. But obviously, that restraint was far from universal because we had Andrew Scheer, and again, whenever I think of Andrew Scheer now, I cannot think of anything else than what Bruce Anderson I'm not sure if he's still a pollster, had to say and has to say about him when he appears on the bridge with Peter Mansbridge. And it's putting Andrew Scheer out there is the single biggest mistake that Pierre Poilievre makes every single day. Chef's kiss. Andrew Scheer yesterday, because, given how warm and allegedly devout he is, gave us. If we asked Andrew Scheer, what would Jesus do on the day that you find that someone you consider to be political opponent has announced that they're retiring, or that they will be retiring, but they haven't left the house yet and they won't leave for some time yet. Apparently, Andrew Scheer believes that this is the appropriate way to mark that type of event. Probably not going to be extremely clear here. I'm trying to put it up. Let's see if I can make it a little larger and what that looks like for you here. That's a little better. Steven Guilbeault announced his retirement today. While I have a certain level of respect for anyone who puts their name on the ballot, make the bar so low. I could never respect the damaging policies he imposed on Canadians. The good news for Guilbeault's legacy is bad news for Canadians. Here's why. Carney is keeping Guilbeault's no more pipeline bill on the books. Carney is keeping the industrial carbon tax and hiking it. Carney is keeping the radical EV mandate, making almost all gas and diesel cars illegal by 2040. Carney is keeping the West Coast shipping ban, blocking Canadian energy exports. Carney is keeping the net zero policies in place. In his book called Values, Carney supported all of Guilbeault's radical policies to leave oil and gas in the ground. So as Guilbeault leaves Ottawa, he could take personal comfort knowing that Carney is keeping all the anti-development, high energy cost policies in place. The guy hasn't even left the legislature yet. The body hasn't even started to got cold. The body isn't even dead yet. And Andrew Scheer's shoving knives in it. And of course, lies. Yeah, Steven Guilbeault is leaving Ottawa because Carney is keeping all the allegedly anti-development, high energy cost policies in place. Remind us. It's just, it's like, this is not serious. Clearly. Not a serious comment. So, Steven Guilbeault, of course, leaving with class. And conservatives showing us how to be an ass. Just incapable to be gracious. Incapable. But not only just incapable, let's be honest, not even making a fig leaf of an attempt like Daniel Smith did. Just nasty, toxic, negative, all the damn time. Now, a lot of this comes on the news that had been issued, I think it was late last week, that there was a letter circulated, or not, maybe not circulated, but a letter that was sent to the Prime Minister from 14 Liberal MPs expressing concern that the MP, that the Prime Minister would be backsliding on the environment. 6 days ago, Valérie Gamache of CBC News wrote, Liberal MP Steven Guilbeault may be the most outspoken, but he's not the only member of his party unhappy with Prime Minister Mark Carney's environmental rollbacks. Carney signed a new agreement with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith last week. Again, this is a little more than last week, but last week at the time the article was written, that could see an oil pipeline to the West Coast start as early as September 2027. It also includes a plan to increase Alberta's industrial carbon price, though at a slower pace than previously projected. 14 Liberal MPs sent a letter to the Prime Minister at the end of April before the agreement with the Alberta government was even signed to offer some recommendations, but to also expressed their unease with the situation. Despite signing their names at the bottom of the letter, the MPs do not want to be publicly identified, stating that their approach is intended to be constructive and respectful. Quote, "We remain deeply concerned that government's credibility will be seriously compromised," said the signatories of the letter, which was obtained by Radio-Canada. So again, disagreement, but not dissent. The approach is intended to be constructive and respectful, not to blow everything up. The 14 MPs come from across the country, including Quebec and British Columbia. Specifically in response to the concessions being granted to Alberta, the elected officials reiterated the importance of, quote, "supporting the clean electricity regulations," and more generally, they emphasized that climate change remains the greatest threat of our time. At the time of writing, the Prime Minister's office had not responded to a request for comment. The Bloc Québécois is aiming to use the few remaining weeks of the parliamentary sitting before the summer recess to convince Liberals who are sensitive to climate issues to speak out. Quote, "We will use all the parliamentary tools at our disposal to make the voices of those who haven't disappeared, who remain concerned about the climate crisis, heard," Bloc MP Patrick Bonin said in a French interview. So far, only Guilbeault, who has left Carney's cabinet after the initial MOU Carney and Smith signed last fall, has publicly voiced his criticism of Carney's most recent proposals to weaken environmental regulations in order to attract an investor for a potential pipeline in Alberta. But Bonet says he hopes more Liberals come forward publicly. Quote, "We obviously hope that there are people within the Liberals who will stand up and say, no, you were not elected on a platform that is essentially the agenda of the oil and gas companies, which is currently being implemented," the Bloc environment critic said. So on that front, Guilbeault mentioned yesterday that he does believe that Canada is backsliding on this. This, according to David Thurton of CBC. Ex-Environment Minister Steven Guilbeault says Canada is backsliding on climate action as he announced Wednesday that he's leaving his job as MP. In a candid interview with CBC's Power and Politics, Guilbeault elaborated on why he decided to leave, how the Alberta energy deal impacted his decision, and why it could further fan the flames of separation in Quebec. Guilbeault told host David Cochrane that he started thinking about leaving politics after Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith inked a major energy accord and a commitment to advance the West Coast pipeline late last year. At the time, he took the drastic step of resigning from cabinet, but remained in the Liberal caucus. Guilbeault stuck with the party, he said, because he wanted to see if the Alberta Memorandum of Understanding could be salvaged and if he could make change outside cabinet and inside the caucus. Reflecting on those 6 months sitting on the Liberal backbenches, Guilbeault said he was able to influence several initiatives. He cited the Carney government's enhanced nature strategy and the $5.3 billion commitment to international climate financial assistance at a time when other wealthy countries were backing away from the policy. But he said the continuing Alberta energy negotiations did not sit well with him and that he wasn't alone in that sentiment. On Wednesday, Guilbeault told his party and the Montreal constituents that he's resigning as an MP because he intends to take his fight for the environment outside of government. Quote, "This decision is the result of careful consideration," he said in a social media post. "After almost 7 years as a member of parliament and minister, I have come to the conclusion that it's time for me to pursue my fight for environmental protection and the fight against climate change in a different way." Guilbeault delivered the news to fellow Liberal MPs as they gathered for their weekly parliamentary caucus meeting. He will remain a Liberal MP until the House of Commons rises for the summer, but delivered what could be his last major speech in the House on Wednesday afternoon. His voice was breaking as he shared his gratitude for his children, family, staff, constituents, and volunteers whom he said made his work possible. Quote, "You gave me far more than I can ever give back," he said. Guilbeault said Canada will be lucky to slash its emissions by 15% below 2005 levels by 2030 under its current policies. He said that through the negotiations with Alberta, the federal government relinquished one of the strongest tools it has to fight climate change, industrial carbon pricing, which, again, it was originally a conservative idea, just like industrial carbon pricing was a conservative idea. And it was a conservative idea, small c conservative, and not a, it was also a conservative upper C idea, but small conservative in that it requires minimal bureaucracy and it allows the purchaser to make the choice of how much they want to spend on carbon because they have the option of making other choices. It's simple, it's straightforward, doesn't involve a lot of bureaucracy, and allows people to make choices about their own money. But the Liberals brought it in, so now the Conservatives hate it. And they destroyed it. So, again, when I keep on saying that there's nothing genuinely or authentically conservative about the Conservative Party of Canada anymore, these are examples of it. Right? Again, when they started to smear the Aga Khan and David Johnston and even Mark Carney at the beginning, when all of these people were people that they elevated. Right? Being a conservative, capital C, today in 2026, particularly if you're in the actual party, means that there is nobody that you have approved of before that you are not willing to throw under the bus today. Quote, with last week's agreement with Alberta, we postponed by 10 years the level of ambition we had for industrial carbon pricing, Guilbeault said. When he was Environment Minister, Guilbeault renegotiated a new carbon pricing system in Alberta, but Smith never implemented it. Quote, I'm skeptical that she will this time around. She has not proven to be a reliable partner on these issues, he said. And again, he said that so calmly and plainly that the impact of it hit, because we know she's not a reliable partner on these issues. You know, she's going to sit there and goes, I can't believe that he said that. No, no, no. Really? Because the separatists right now are trying to get you turfed out of your position, even though you've bent over backwards for them, because they feel that you weren't a reliable partner to them. The people who allegedly got you the job that you have and for whom you are willing to torch Canada now think that you are an unreliable partner. So please do not pretend to get offended that Steven Guilbeault stated that which the people you're bending over backward for are also stating. I mean, come on. She's not a reliable partner. Before the interview with Power and Politics wrapped up, Guilbeault laid into the argument the Alberta deal was necessary to dampen growing sentiments that the province should leave Canada. Quote, what we are doing right now is we are rewarding bad behavior, he said. I am hoping that what we are doing in Alberta won't have some effect to encourage separatist movement in Quebec. Guilbeault added, this is something that the federal government should keep in mind. Prime Minister Carney thanked Guilbeault for his contributions, listing his efforts to protect the environment and other accomplishments while in government. Quote, he helped establish the 2022 Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework to protect 30% of Canada's lands and waters, implemented Canada's first emissions reduction plan, and championed landmark efforts to protect Canadian culture and identity, including establishing the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Carney said in a statement. Liberals over the last 24 hours acknowledged how much of a loss the departure was. Quote, I would be sad to see him go, said Jaime Baptiste, a Nova Scotia Liberal MP. But Baptiste and other MPs brushed aside questions about whether Wednesday's exit was a sign that the Liberal tent could no longer accommodate climate activists like Guilbeault. Quote, I don't believe that is the case. I believe you have the ability to walk into that caucus, go to the mic and speak about anything, he said. I would reject any premise that Guilbeault doesn't have the ability to be heard. The Liberals under Carney have repealed the consumer carbon tax, eliminated the EV sales mandate that Andrew Scheer just said in his tweet still exists, signaled the end of the oil and gas emissions cap, and reversed the Liberal promise to end fossil fuel subsidies, which they never acted on, of course, as I mentioned before. Take all of this together and you'll see a constant effort to roll back environmental protections and climate action, said Green Party leader Elizabeth May, who was referring to the recent proposed changes to environmental reviews. No wonder Steven Guilbeault is leaving this place. I'm heartbroken that he is. While speaking with reporters, Carney left the door open to working with Guilbeault in some capacity. The Prime Minister also defended his government's effort to protect the environment, saying in French that Canada is protecting nature while advancing international climate finance. Yes, but what about GHGs? Guilbeault is not the only Liberal who is uncomfortable with the direction Carney has taken the country's climate policies. 14 Liberal MPs penned a letter to Carney, raising concerns over what they see as an environmental backslide. Despite signing their names at the bottom of the letter, the MPs do not want to be publicly identified, again stating that their approach is intended to be constructive and respectful. In that conversation that Mr. Guilbeault had, I'm not sure if it was if the one I saw was with yes, it was with Power and Politics. I wasn't sure if it was Power and Politics or CTV's Power Play, but it was the Power and Politics one. I'm going to have his exchange with David Cochrane here. Because, I guess maybe not the entirety of the exchange. I don't know if I should show the whole one, because there's his intervention in the House of Commons that I would also like to show, and I don't want to be the show to be only about this. He did mention certain things that were very interesting. One of them had to do indeed with that deal with Danielle, um, where he says this here. Hopefully, I find the timestamp. Should be right about here. This is something I did not know. I learned yesterday by watching this clip. But apparently, there was an agreement that he had struck with Danielle Smith along the way. She had said yes to this.
Danielle Smith would probably never admit this publicly, but when I was environment minister, I renegotiated with her a more stringent carbon pricing system in Alberta. She never implemented it. And we came to that, we started seeing that in late 2024. I'm skeptic that she will this time around. She has not proven to be a very reliable partner on these issues over time. In theory, the MOU was supposed to help with the referendum. She has decided to go ahead anyway. So I'm puzzled why we would put so many eggs in the basket of a premier who has not shown to other provinces, frankly, and the federal government and Canadians that she can be a reliable partner.
What do you make?
So, once again, calmly speaking truth. Danielle Smith is not a reliable partner. We had a deal and an agreement. And when it came time to implement it, she didn't. I mean, you can't get any more clear than that. Markham Hislop, also of Energy Media, made a comment similar to that about Danielle Smith, which I'm not sure I have. I mean, how would I put it? I have. It's available on YouTube. I'm not sure that I would be able to locate it on the fly because just hearing this statement from Guilbeault actually made me think of it right now. So I hadn't prepared it beforehand. But he has a post on his feed that talks about Danielle Smith specifically when it comes to the MOU and behaviors that she put that she engaged in, behaviors that she engaged in soon after it was made. So she signed this thing, and she made agreement. She gave her word, and then she immediately started to renege on it. Let's see. Part of the things was about the carbon markets that she said the prime minister is trying to shore up at the moment by making sure that there is a basement price, not a basement, a minimum price that is going to take place because that's one of these things that are supposed to be embedded in this, right? The no pathways, no pipeline, no pipeline, no pathways. We were being told about that. But the way that this deal is structured, the pipeline will get the okay to start being built before pathways is the thing. So, what guarantee is there that the pathways thing will actually ever happen? If the pipeline is built and ready to be operational before the pathways project is complete, then what guarantee is there for those of us who really care about climate that um, the pathways thing is ever going to happen? What stops Danielle Smith from saying, want an ice cream? Psych. On that. And that part is a little um, confusing for us. So hopefully, um, I'm able to find I found the video that I'm looking for. Not sure that I found the section yet in it where Mr. Hislop speaks about that. But yes, Daniel Smith, not a reliable partner. And the fact that she called the referendum, thus torching the agreement, has not at all, um, is not at all the only time in this thing that she has shown that she is not a reliable partner in any way, shape, or form. And that's not good for us. And it again leads us back to what it is that we are saying and what we believe that Daniel Smith, uh, just like Trump, um, is has only one loyalty, and that is to herself, first and foremost. And if you look at the things that she says over time in the context of someone that is only loyal to themselves, um, a lot of the things that she does actually start to make sense. So I think I have the part here um, that is relevant to how duplicitous Danielle has been on the pipeline. Here's Markham Hislop from Energy Media talking about the ways that as soon as she put her signature on it, Danielle Smith then started to try to undermine the agreement.
Could government still force this project into existence? Absolutely. The Trudeau government effectively nationalized TMX after American pipeline company Kinder Morgan walked away. So there is clearly precedent for another publicly backed pipeline. But that raises an uncomfortable question. If private capital doesn't want the project, why should taxpayers? And that question becomes even more important once you look at the second major pillar of this political bargain, the Pathways Carbon Capture Project. This is where the story gets really interesting, because buried inside the agreements between Ottawa and Alberta is an extraordinary condition. The pipeline and the Pathways Carbon Capture Project are supposed to be mutually dependent. No Pathways project, no pipeline. That's the political trade. Ottawa gets emissions reductions, Alberta gets export infrastructure, at least in theory. But there's a major problem. The economics and performance of large-scale carbon capture remain deeply uncertain. Around the world, carbon capture projects have consistently struggled with cost overruns, underperformance, and deployment challenges. And the Pathways proposal itself is staggeringly expensive. Initial estimates suggested roughly $75 billion in total decarbonization costs, with governments potentially covering something like $50 billion through subsidies, tax credits, royalty incentives, and other carbon contracts for difference. That is an enormous public commitment, especially when the emissions math itself remains questionable. Because even if Pathways reduces oil sands emissions by roughly 16 megatons annually, expanding production by more than 1 million barrels per day could overwhelm much of that reduction, if not all of it. In other words, Canada would spend tens of billions of dollars subsidizing carbon capture while still increasing absolute emissions overall. Now, politically, Carney and Smith both need this bargain to work. Too much political capital is invested, which is why I suspect the rules may eventually change. And you can already see the narrative beginning to shift. Some industry voices are now quietly floating a different idea. Forget the carbon capture project altogether and redirect the subsidies toward pipeline construction itself. Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because the underlying objective increasingly appears to be transferring as much infrastructure risk as possible from private industry onto taxpayers. Then there's British Columbia. This issue is far from resolved. The Federal Oil Tanker Moratorium Act still effectively blocks large crude tankers from operating on BC's northern coast. That matters because Prince Rupert is widely viewed as the commercially attractive export route to Asia. Shorter shipping distances, better economics, better access to Pacific markets. But BC Premier David Eby continues to support the tanker ban. And if that position holds, the northern route could become politically impossible. That leaves alternatives like Kitimat or southern BC routes. But those routes reopen many of the same environmental, indigenous rights, and political battles that turned TMX into a decade-long nightmare. And again, investors know this. Which brings us to what I think is the biggest issue of all: Asian demand. Because this entire strategy depends on one massive assumption: that Asian countries will continue dramatically increasing oil imports for decades into the future.
All right. Obviously, not the clip that I thought it was. That was talking about how it is she undermined the pathways thing. So it must have been another year. But on that point of future demand, Mr. Hislop is making the case that that might not be there. There may not be a business case for oil, and this is not for bitumen. And this is one of the things that the conservatives keep on coming back to over and over again. Still, even conservatives that have had their faces eaten by the face-eating leopards party, still they do that. I had a little bit of an exchange yesterday with Aaron O'Toole, actually, on our platform yesterday, where he was basically saying, "Oh, look at this," based on the announcement that Germany was stating that we could how would you put it, that we have an opportunity to sell some LNG to them, that they would take up some of the room on a pipeline that is being planned. And he goes, "But Trudeau said there was no business case. This is very good news. The sad reality is that GNL Quebec was tailor-made for this deal, but a lack of vision in Ottawa and Quebec City set us back a decade." It would appear that the deal that we struck with Germany is so impressive that it even caught the attention of the New York Times, because Mr. O'Toole was citing an article from the New York Times in his thing. Now, yes, he is talking about GNL, which is supposed to be the LNG pipeline that was going to bring proposed to bring liquefied natural gas through Quebec. But his point here is that this was killed because of a lack of vision in Ottawa and Quebec City. Now, of course, Mr. O'Toole is commenting about statements made at the time. applying to the situation today. So I said, at the time, statements are made in their time. Global geopolitics have changed a lot since GNL was proposed. Taking comments made at one time and applying them to another is dishonest. You're better than that. And when Trudeau said that there was no business case, somebody made the point here that Trudeau was referring specifically to the case of East Coast LNG export and not there being no business case for a pipeline in any way, shape, or form. In August 2022, during a joint press conference with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Montreal amid Europe's energy crisis following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Trudeau stated that there had never been a strong business case for LNG exports from Canada's east coast. And he highlighted the challenges that the long distance to transport natural gas by pipeline from Western Canada to an East Coast liquefaction terminal puts the high investment required and distance across the Atlantic. And apparently specific quote was that, let's see if I can get it here. No, I have the full quote specifically. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, sorry, couldn't get the full quote. But he was always supportive of the West Coast plan, to which Erin O'Toole replied to them, "Stop, he was wrong then and you look silly," which of course is not an intelligent response. And goes, "No, Erin, silly looking would be if my first thought when Carney sings the landmark deal is how can I swipe at Trudeau?" In our exchange, I said, taking comments at one time and applying them to another is dishonest. You're better than that. It goes, nothing to do with time. The demand was there before the full invasion of Ukraine. It's more acute, but there was always a business case. If it's more acute now, then something has changed. And I said, I respectfully disagree because everything has everything to do with time because time is not constant, it changes. And demand isn't the only factor that matters in making a business case. The ability to extract, to ship it, as well as the number and the state of the political competitors, all of these things fall into place. And in 2016, we have to remember that the United States began large-scale LNG shipments and was the globe's biggest exporter by 2023, shipping 111 million tons of it by 2025, and that changed the game. We arrived to a point where we thought that the nation that was would be our biggest client ended up becoming our biggest competitor. Now, fortunately, when we decided to get into the LNG game, we did it from the West Coast, where the U.S. had no LNG presence because a lot of their stuff is around the Gulf, and why it's so much more less expensive to build pipelines over there. Well, they don't have the Rockies to cross. The United States is now trying to get in on the West Coast with something out of Alaska, I believe. So whatever LNG business case that Mr. O'Toole claims existed for Canada in 2016 or in 2014, but let's say in 2016, when we were still 9 years away from our first shipment to Asia and shareholder approval for LNG Canada only happened in 2018 after the Conservative government, federal approval had happened in 2014, but nothing else had happened. The shareholders have to give their approval before anything serious starts, and that happened under Trudeau. Perhaps it wasn't as convincing, that business case wasn't as convincing as it is now because times have changed. To which O'Toole reported, I spoke with ambassadors from Europe on these issues in 2014. These energy securities were well known. Yeah. And with all due respect, I'm having a hard time believing that in 2014, it was well known that in 2026, we'd have war in Ukraine, sanctioned Russian oil, Venezuela taken over by the United States, Hormuz blockaded, and damage operations of the Gulf Arab states simultaneously. Things have changed. But why stick to 2014? From 2006 to 2015, when you were in government, Mr. O'Toole, Prime Minister Harper told us that the business case was good enough for 5 LNG pipeline projects. 5 of them. And of those 5, not many got through. We had LNG Canada, which that's the one that exists now, Kitimat, BC, joint venture greenlit by the Harper government in 2015, near the end of 10 years of telling us that there was a business case of that, with legally binding environmental conditions. the largest of the projects that were proposed, and it's actively in its operational phase now. But there was the Pacific Northwest LNG that was supposed to go for Port Edward, BC, that was backed by Malaysia's Petronas. It received an export license in 2014 from Harper and federal environmental approval in 26, but the proponents ultimately canceled the project due to market conditions. Due to market conditions, but Aaron O'Toole and the Conservatives want us to believe now that there was always a business case. The wood fiber LNG that was supposed to leave out of Squamish, BC, that was driven by Pacific Energy. It received its federal approval in 2014 and is currently under construction. There was another Kitimat LNG from this one out of Bish Cove, British Columbia, which was co-owned by Chevron and Apache Canada, later taken over by Woodside. Facility obtained its long-term export license in 2013. It was placed on indefinite hold, and the site is currently being marketed for other potential developers. WCC LNG, Prince British Columbia, another Petronas-backed proposal. The project was issued an export license by the Harper government, but was subsequently shelved. So if that business case was so great back in the time that Aaron O'Toole was in government, but only one of them is actually complete now, with another one under construction. Does this indicate that the Harper government also suffered from a serious lack of vision because they too couldn't get it done? At least under the Trudeau area, again, the LNG project itself, LNG Canada project, was indeed completed. The shareholder permit was received in 2018. Apparently, we're supposed to believe that Trudeau so destroyed the climate for investment that 2 years after him being in power, shareholders agreed that LNG Canada was still a good idea. And he got the first bitumen pipeline to the West Coast since the days of Louis Saint Laurent built. Conservatives will literally say anything. Literally. So it's to Mr. O'Toole's credit that he had a position of privilege that allowed him to speak to ambassadors from Europe on these issues in 2014. But the fact that he spoke to them and they say that these energy security issues were well known then doesn't negate the reality that the geopolitical situation in 2016 is radically different than it was in 2014 or even in 2006 when he became, when he was part of government. They just say anything, and any opportunity is an opportunity to take a swipe. And I believe that Mr. O'Toole is better than this. And I said so, and somebody said, no, he's not. And I said, no, yes, he is. That's why I'm engaging him, and I'm kind of disappointed in this comment, because I know he's better than this. I believe him to be better than this. And then there was another point somewhere along the way where somebody posted a meme, and Mr. O'Toole said something like, memes are a white flag surrender for people who have nothing to say, which again is not always true. Sometimes they're just a clever and amusing way to make a very valid observation. Like all things, whether one is doing something while waving the white flag of surrender on a serious exchange is the use one makes of them. So Aaron O'Toole, and I distinctly remember a time where Aaron O'Toole was the subject or the star, the co-star, along with a porta potty, of a rather infamous meme of his own that really did not contribute anything positive to the public discourse in any way and made him look terrible. In fact, he will forever be remembered for that meme. So I'm guessing in case of Aaron O'Toole, if he believes that memes are the last refuge of people who are waving the white flag of surrender on a serious exchange, well, I'm guessing he was writing what he knows. Um, but yeah, again, just a lack of class. A lack of class. We signed a deal. We signed a great deal. We signed a deal at a very key moment. And the conservative response is, see, if you can sign this deal, then all the other deals that were never signed. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. There was a business case for those too. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. It's all your fault. Lack of vision. Trudeau, Trudeau, Trudeau. They just can't quit him. So, you didn't get it done. See, these criticisms from the conservatives would have much more weight if during the decade they were in power, they would have gotten something done. But they didn't. They got less done. Again, and they still want us to believe that Alberta is radically increasing the amount of oil it produces, but that there is a production cap, that it is raking in money hand over fist, particularly right now, with all that extra production, and somehow that just magically happened all on its own with no intervention from anyone, particularly a liberal. I mean, if you need to keep on re-editing and re-editing and re-editing history in order to make a point, maybe you don't have one. Um, yeah, Kit Pete. I think he's confusing memes for insults. Yeah, indeed. Good point. I think we get royalties on the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Yes, I looked into that. Apparently, I think it was last year or in 2025. Yeah, 2025, I think it is. With all things counted, not only royalties, but extra tax revenue and all that kind of stuff from all that. I think Canada brought in, I think, $1.7 million on the royalties and an extra like 1.7 billion, sorry, and an extra 5 billion. So, in like taxes and other types of fees as the operation of that. In fact, it seems that the TMX pipeline, that yes, we bought for 4.5 billion and ended up costing 34 billion to finish it. Of course, we were trying to finish it during COVID when things were particularly expensive and we had labor shortages. That it's bringing in enough money that the people in charge of operating it are saying that now there is a business case for it not only to be picked up by a private investor, but it would probably be really good if that private investor was Canadian. Like, for example, the teachers' pensions funds and Canada Pension Plan and all that kind of stuff. When Mark Carney was talking about, maybe looking at some assets that they could do something with in order to put money in that sovereign wealth fund, that TMX pipeline could be one. I mean, steady, stable, predictable revenues for a service that's going to be used well into the future. That's the type of stuff that pension funds really, really like. And apparently, it is generating enough money now that there actually is an interesting case to maybe keep it in Canadian hands now. But we were told that it would never be a good thing financially because the Liberals bought it. And therefore, they screwed it all up. And turns out, no. Alberta is pumping out more oil than ever before. It's making more money than ever before. And it seems that it's profitable enough. I mean, it's still going to take years to recoup the investment, but that it's profitable enough that it's an asset that would be attractive for a pension fund to own. Nobody was claiming that when they were nailing the then Prime Minister to the cross for having gone forward with that. Now, there was a lot to criticize on the environment side and the climate side, but I'm just talking about the sheer business case side. That was going to be a waste of money. Turns out it wasn't. So, like I said, just very odd behavior all around from conservatives, even when they are getting what they want. Even when they're getting what they want, they're not happy. Now, Mr. Guilbeault mentioned certain things, as I mentioned in the article, that he did and that he was happy about. He said, I'd worked on, sorry, he said, certainly the nature strategy, which ended up landing very well. We had, and was very close to what I'd worked on before leaving the nature portfolio in November 2025. People may not have seen it, but in the spring economic statement, Canada announced its renewal of its support for what's called the International Climate Finance under the Paris Agreement, and OECD countries providing support for countries in the South. Britain had cut theirs by 25%, France by 40%, and the United States by about 100. Canada increased ours a little bit. So there are good things that the Prime Minister did, according to him, that he likes. But he said, I was very disappointed with what was in the MOU, given the things that he and Prime Minister Trudeau had worked very hard to achieve. Now, David Cochrane brings up a point that is often made, stating that it was looking like the climate goals would not be achieved, and Mr. Guilbeault respectfully disagrees with, how would you put it, the amount of when you set a target, let's say I'm going to do this 100 times, and you only do it about 25 times. Okay, that's one thing. If you say you're going to achieve this 100% of the time and you achieve it 98% of the time, well, you didn't achieve your goal. But 98 is really not that far off 100. So you can focus on, they didn't meet their promise. Yeah, but they gave it a really valiant shot. They put everything that they had behind it. They never wavered. And they got as far as they could, and as far as they could was this. They reached for the stars and landed on the moon, as the expression goes, right? Some people will choose to, you didn't meet it, therefore it's binary, you're an abject failure. And other people will say, well, you didn't meet it, but my God, it's like, for all intents and purposes, you did.
So was that it, that the signals from the MOU, was that your ability to have the influence you wanted to have, it was a pretty final answer that maybe it wouldn't be there?
I think it's a respectful disagreement with the Prime Minister and the government on how to approach climate change. I've heard some people say that we had a plan on paper before. I respectfully disagree with that. An independent analysis by the Climate Institute, the Canadian Climate Institute, at the end of 2024, said that we were tracking to be at minus 36% in 2030, where we were supposed to be at minus 40. So we weren't quite there, but we were getting very close. And our plan was a combination of investment, of fiscal measures like carbon pricing, and of regulations. And now with the backsliding that we've seen, we will be lucky if we hit minus 15% by 2030. So we're still fighting climate change in Canada, but nowhere near to the same level of intensity that we did just a year and a half ago.
So here, stating that we were having a goal of 40% reductions from whatever target date year we started with, and that we were on track if what we had in the pipeline was allowed to go through, and we got everybody's cooperation on that, to get to 36% reduction. So yeah, okay, not 40, but like, come on. And now with what we're doing, we'd be lucky if we hit a 15% reduction by that same target date. That's his view of it. And he does understand the file very well. I have no reason to doubt what it is that he has to say. Again, I am noting that Prime Minister Mark Carney is embedding a lot of climate stuff in the individual projects that he is picking. Um, but those projects need to be built, and then we actually have to see if those things are having the climate impacts that they are, and be able to measure them. And we won't be able to get that data for years yet to come. We won't know whether or not the plan of embedding it into embedding a climate element in everything that we do. So in order to be able to achieve, a result down the road, if we're looking at, for example, the steel at Algoma, when they were using the regular blast furnaces, they were having a GHG impact. Now that they've moved to electric, that is going to reduce. It's going to be a permanent reduction, so long as they keep on using them and they don't go back to using any blast furnaces. Uh, so in that case, given that we only have sort of one real smelter that is working for the entire country, now that both of those are in place, yes, we have significantly reduced uh, our GHG emissions in the process of creating aluminium that could be used for industrial purposes. We have done that. If that pathways thing does come along, and we are removing those 16 million tons per year, um, that's the equivalent of 5 million cars, not 6, but 5. I knew there had to be a change in the numbers. Taken off the roads in Alberta. Uh, okay, that'd be great. And in 2035, we'll be able to say, hey, for a project this size, we're able to reduce the carbon emissions by this percentage, and this is one around. But until that happens, and it's proven, we can't count those, right? So our main critique again from the prime minister is the fact that he hasn't actually stood up and done a climate speech to explain the competitive climate policy that he's enacting. We're seeing little pieces of it. And I've seen some people come to these shows and say, well, the prime minister's explained it very well. It's like, no, he hasn't. He really hasn't. He absolutely has not explained it well. Because if he had, given his ability to speak, given his ability to persuade, given his profound depth of knowledge in so many of the subjects in which he speaks, particularly when it comes to financing stuff, um, he would probably have the credibility to convince those 14 MPs, or at least some of those 14 MPs who did sign that letter, that there was some sufficient action going on. And that's not happening. The prime minister has not at all yet once come to a microphone and say, okay, Canada, I'm getting a lot of questions. This is where I'm going on climate. Let me show you the roadmap, like he has done for our diversification and whatnot. He has not done that. This is not clear. But as you can see, again, Steve, quietly speaking truth, or at least what he believes to be the truth, to power. Not yelling, not shouting, not making wild accusations. Just plainly stating where it is he thinks we are, what's wrong, who's a reliable partner, who's not been a reliable partner, not understanding the MOU, not agreeing with using an MOU like this as a manner to try to resolve a national unity issue, not agreeing with the rewarding of bad behavior, as Premier David Eby has also stated. So yeah, we need more of this. We need more of this. Um, in the House, Steven Guilbeault directed what it is that he had to say. Um, I'm going to present it to you here. Um, there is he goes back and forth between French and English a lot. There is some simultaneous interpretation, so I will just allow that to run. But this was his statement in the House with regard to him making his departure.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. A few months after I turned 25, I embarked on my first overseas trip, one that, without knowing it, would set the course of my entire life. I was heading to Berlin for what was then a little-known gathering, the very first Conference of Parties on Climate Change, COP1. History was being made, and I was lucky enough to be in the room. Comme beaucoup de mes pairs à cette époque, je partais pour le vieux continent avec mon sac
Like
à dos.
many of my peers at that time, I was setting off for the old world with just a backpack, but I wasn't there to travel around Europe. I was there to share a gym with 600 young people from around the world in what had only recently been East Berlin, and we had a shared goal to convince governments to take ambitious action against climate change.
Not only how crucial the climate, and I would later discover the nature crisis are, but also how important international collaboration is to find solutions to these complex issues.
During the two following decades, I channeled that conviction into environmental work at nonprofits, defending, mobilizing, and creating bridges between science, civil society, and public policy. And that was the experience that ultimately led me to political life.
In 2019, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau asked me to join the Liberal team to help accelerate action on climate change. When I became Environment Minister, my mandate included developing Canada's first comprehensive climate plan to meet our international obligations. We also developed the country's first comprehensive adaptation plan to prepare and protect Canadians from the dangers of a changing climate, changes that we can no longer avoid. And those plans were working. Ces plans, à travers des politiques,
These plans, along with policies, regulations, and legislation, were designed to ensure that Canada would do its fair share to reduce pollution and protect Canadians from the problems that we're currently seeing in communities from coast to coast to coast.
Before taking the final decision to run, there was one thing I asked: the ability to distance myself from the decision by the government to purchase the Trans Mountain Pipeline. As an environmentalist with deep understanding of the scientific consensus on the urgency and need to rapidly reduce heat-trapping gases, I had opposed a number of oil and gas projects, and I had criticized the Trudeau government for moving ahead with the purchase of TMX. Beaucoup de mes adversaires politiques ont utilisé
Many of my political opponents used these positions to try to paint me as being anti-development. That always made me smile, because throughout my career, I have supported a number of development projects throughout the country: wind and solar energy projects, transit and active mobility projects, electrifying our transit system, including increasing the sales of electric vehicles, and recently the high-speed rail project.
I was on stage in Edmonton in 2015 when then NDP Premier Rachel Notley announced her climate leadership plan. Again, I was roundly criticized by some environmentalists for doing so, but I have always believed in collaborating with provinces within the framework of the scientific reality of climate change. Depuis lors, bien des choses ont changé.
Since then, a lot has changed. 10 years ago, for every dollar invested in producing fossil fuel, there was also a dollar invested in clean and renewable technology. But today, that ratio is 2 to 1 in favor of renewable energy. And last year, electric vehicles represented 23% of global sales.
There are many reasons that lead people to enter politics. In my case, it was a desire to pursue my quest for a better environment, for the fight against climate change, for nature protection. These 7 years, intense, demanding, and deeply meaningful, have been among the most formative of my life. I leave proud of what we have accomplished together.
After 7 years of serving as member for the beautiful riding of Laurier-Sainte-Marie, it is time now for me to find new ways to pursue my life's work. I will be leaving my seat in this House later this summer.
I'm profoundly grateful to my children, my family, friends, staff, and constituents, as well as volunteers, many of whom have come to Ottawa today to be with us, and who've made this work possible. You gave me far more than I can ever give back. Mr. Speaker, I won't mention the fact that some of them may be here in the House, because you would tell me I'm not allowed to do that.
The journey that started in Berlin more than 30 years ago is not over. It will simply continue in a new direction with the same sense of urgency and with renewed hopes. The struggle for our planet is defining for our generation, and I will continue to fight. It was the honor of a lifetime to serve my community and my country. Thank you.
All right. So that was his statement. Again, classy, right? Not burning everything down on the way out. Right? Take this job and shove it. No big dramatic moment. And then the Conservatives are asked to say something. Everybody gets a chance to say something. And again, Conservatives, they just can't help themselves. This is very disappointing, what you're about to see and hear here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I'm a rookie in this chamber. I'm a new member of Parliament, barely having served not even 3 years. But I can acknowledge that public service comes at a price, at a cost to your friends, your family, your loved ones. And the honourable member from Laurier-Sainte-Marie certainly has committed himself to this service.
That's where he should have stopped. Just making it very clear. That's where he should have stopped. But of course, they got to keep talking. So he kept talking.
We could say that he has very deep convictions. Perhaps we won't agree on anything. We probably won't agree on anything. But his deep convictions might have been taken a bit too literally by him over the years. In fact, as you may know, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member had been arrested in my riding in Lakeview, scaling former Premier Ralph Klein's home, and had been taken into custody. In a sense, he may have served more time in Calgary than I did. But let me just say, it's a complex issue, Mr. Speaker, because we know that his policies caused hardships for over a decade. His policies caused so much hardship for so many families across this country that the price that has been paid by millions of Canadians for his determination has been a very heartbreaking one for all Canadians to bear witness to. But rest assured that his legacy lives on with this Liberal Prime Minister. This Prime Minister has kept the tanker ban in place. This Prime Minister has kept the No More Pipelines ban. This Prime Minister has kept the Net Zero Doctrine. He has kept the EV mandate. This Prime Minister has made sure that his legacy of plastic lids on your coffee, that in Calgary you can't use compostable bags, has been maintained. He has kept the industrial carbon tax. So one must ask, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, that this member must draw some satisfaction that the Liberal Prime Minister carries on his legacy. Thank you very much.
L'honorable député de Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I heard somewhere a compliment in there. I think if you and all of us here look really hard, I think we'll find it, and I will take it. Thank you very much.
Again, someone decides to meet ass with class. That was not the moment for that type of intervention. From that CPC Sorry, I'm breaking into conservative speak, blaming the CBC for everything. By Chuvaloy Majumdur. Not at all. At all. At all. What is expected of someone at a moment like this. For an example of what is expected at a moment like this, ladies and gentlemen, I present you, unironically, showing the example of what one should be doing in this case. Not the alleged government in waiting, but the representative for the party that has absolutely no desire to form the government ever. The Bloc Québécois, the separatist party.
Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Repentigny.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to thank the member for Laurier Sainte-Marie, former Minister of the Environment and Heritage, for his service. I will exceptionally use his name, Steven, on this final occasion. We've known each other for 25 years. I knew him back when he was at Greenpeace, back when he had long hair and a longer beard, and fewer white hairs. He liked climbing buildings and placing solar panels on premiers' residences. In fact, some people even called him the Montreal Jesus. We were both part of Quebec and Canadian and international environmental movements. Over a long period, we participated in many major climate conferences, the COP conferences, that he also participated in as Minister of the Environment. And one of his major achievements was the Montreal Biodiversity Agreement. That wouldn't have been possible without him. And another thing that he did was the plan to fight climate change. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't ambitious enough, but it was by far the most ambitious one that we've seen in the history of this country. We've certainly had our disagreements about how best to serve the environmental cause. We haven't always agreed on strategy. Sometimes I've criticized his ideas, but I've never doubted his commitment to the fight against climate change. On behalf of myself and the Bloc Québécois, I'd like to wish him all the best. I know that he will continue to fight for the environment and climate in other contexts, in other positions, and I will be very pleased to work with him once more one day. It's unfortunate to see him leaving today, but it's the consequence of unfortunate differences of opinion in Canada. He was by far the most ambitious Minister of the Environment in the history of this country. He was by far the best Minister of the Environment that this country has ever known.
Mais pour le Canada, c'était énorme, c'était beaucoup, beaucoup trop.
Now, for Canada, that was just too much. And yet, despite all of the disagreements, he did everything that he could. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Stephen. Now, I think he'll have a little more free time this summer. And I've heard that if he wants to have a bit of fun, well, he can always climb the CN Tower. He can always visit it if he wants to send a clear message to the government about climate change. My question for him today, and we're all wondering this, is he going to take this opportunity to give us a scoop on what his next challenge will be? The Honourable Member for Laurier Sainte-Marie. Thank you. I'd like to sincerely thank my colleague and friend, the MP for Repentigny. I'd like to thank him for his kind words on his own behalf and on behalf of the Bloc Québécois. Politics can be difficult, but it's also a field where you can accomplish a great deal. In 2022, the UN approached us to organize the biodiversity conference in Montreal. And very often that takes 1 or 2 years to organize, but we only had 6 months. We had to work closely with China that was chairing that conference, even though the diplomatic relationship at that time was limited. Mr. Trudeau, the Prime Minister at the time, supported by the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, today the Minister of International Development, both supported me in participating in that with all Canadians, with Canadians, rather non-profits, civil society organizations, and many other stakeholders. And we convinced 196 countries to protect 30% of the planet. Today, it's called the Paris of biodiversity. So it is possible to do great things when you go into politics. I would invite all those who are watching today and wondering whether they should run, I would encourage everyone to go for it.
So again, we are seeing from the Bloc Québécois of all parties how to send someone off. Mr. Bonnet outright said that Steven Guilbeault, as far as he's concerned, was the best Minister of the Environment we have ever had. Of course, Mark Gerritsen, the chief government whip, spoke about Guilbeault. No point in having to show it, not because Mr. Gerritsen is not worthy of being shown, but I mean, a liberal commenting about a fellow liberal who they obviously respect and have lots of affection for is clearly not the most salient of news. The NDP MP who also spoke, was able, Gordon Johns from Courtney Alberni, also understood the assignment, did make one or two comments that were critical overall of the government in terms of abandoning climate stuff. Or backsliding a little bit. Of course, the NDP would make an attempt to do that. This is politics overall. But the overwhelming majority of the statement was positive. But of course, if I'm going to present another view specifically on this topic today, it would be that of Green Party leader Elizabeth May, who is extremely sad to see Steven Guilbeault go, would have loved for him to cross the floor and join the Greens. Where he certainly would have had a good home. In fact, Steven Guilbeault, if he wanted to, probably could have given that Miss May would like to retire at some point. She's already tried once. Probably would have been even a good candidate to become the leader of the Green Party of Canada. Fortunately, we still have Mike Morris, who had unfortunately lost his re-election bid by a very few seats. Not a few seats, what I'm talking about, a few votes in the last election. It was not it was a very close enough race. What was it? Looking for it and I can't find it off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. But he has is on the record as staying involved and intending to run again. Polling is indicating that were he to run again, that he would win. In the 2025 Canadian federal election, Kelly DeRitter won the seat. 34.2% of the vote to 33.6% of the vote. So Morris just barely lost that seat, but he would win it today. He's probably a good candidate to become the next leader of the Green Party of Canada as well. Mike Morris, extremely charming, well-spoken, not the type of person or personality that turns people off. Very respected, would definitely would be able to fill the very big shoes that Elizabeth May is leaving. And of course, Elizabeth May, of course, having a reputation for respecting Parliament specifically and the rules of the legislature. So you know that we do not need to worry one bit about how it is that she is going to show up for this occasion.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et merci
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
collègue et cher ami
I'd like to thank my colleague and dear friend, the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. It has been an honor to work with him for a long time. In fact, we've been friends for a long time. It's been an honor to both be MPs in this House. It's been a huge honor for me. I will miss him here in Parliament. But I know that we will continue to work together.
Mr. Speaker, but I do know that courage should be respected regardless of views. What we are dealing with is a crisis, but it's heartbreaking in this moment. Et je veux dire seulement que je veux dire remercie.
And I would just like to thank the people of Laurier-Sainte-Marie for showing a great deal of judgment in choosing this member.
The only question would be to give the member one more chance to say, of all the extraordinary things accomplished in his service in this place, of what achievement is he most proud? What would he most want us to remember in the extraordinary list of achievements here? Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my friend, my very old friend, the member for Saanich Gulf Islands, the leader of the Green Party, for her words. We've known each other for a very long time. We worked together before getting into political life. We share many things, including our birthday, which is coming up soon, Mr. Speaker. I'll mention that for anyone who's interested to know, and I want to reassure her that I will continue to be there for her and for everyone who are interested in working on fighting climate change and protecting biodiversity. I'll never be far away. If you need me, I'll always be there with pleasure. Thank you.
Resuming debate.
And there you have it, kits and cubs. Whoops, sorry. Screens are slow to change and I can't stop that. Sorry. There we go. That was not supposed to happen. So as you can tell, Elizabeth May, visibly heartbroken. I'm not crying, you're crying. Visibly heartbroken. You know, that a friend and a colleague, a long-term friend, a colleague, is not going to be remaining. And yeah, Ceci, I agree with you. Elizabeth May is just a beautiful person. And I agree with you also, Kitlinda, that she should be made permanent speaker for as long as she wants to be in the role. The House would be better for it. I completely agree. Completely agree. I found the clip that I was looking for, by the way, with regard to Danielle Smith not being able to be trusted. Why is this giving me such a hard time today? It is my computer is doing things I am not asking it to do. Here it is, again, Markham Hislop. This one is in a post of his that's called 13 Days Ago, Danielle Smith is not fit to hold political office, is the title of it. And he pretty much opens with the reasons for which she should not be trusted, particularly on the deal here, the pathways, her engagements there.
Titled, Danielle Smith is a bad faith actor, can no longer be trusted. A lot of people thought I was overstating the case. Some thought the language was too harsh. Others argued that Smith was simply being strategic, or standing up for Alberta, or negotiating hard with Ottawa. But the events of the past few weeks matter because they clarify something important. This was never about ordinary political disagreement. It was about trust. And I had already concluded back in March that Danielle Smith was governing in bad faith. What we're seeing now, the flirtation with Alberta separatism, the normalization of anti-democratic rhetoric, the degradation of public institutions, the constant pressure campaigns against the legitimacy of federal authority is not a sudden turn. It's the continuation of a pattern, and that pattern was already visible. The essay I wrote in March was not really about methane regulations or carbon pricing. Those were examples, evidence, symptoms of something larger. The core argument was simple. Smith was entering agreements she never intended to fully honor. That is a profound accusation in a federation like Canada. Federalism only works if governments negotiate in good faith. Provinces in Ottawa fight all the time. That's normal. That friction is built into the system. But underneath all of it is an assumption. When a government signs an agreement, it intends to uphold the substance of the deal. My argument in March was that this assumption was beginning to collapse in Alberta. And what happened? Almost immediately after signing the Canada-Alberta Energy Memorandum of Understanding with Ottawa, the Smith government began undermining the very commitments it had just made. On industrial carbon pricing, Alberta agreed to a strengthened technology, innovation, and emissions reduction system, the TIER system, with a path towards $130 per ton. But within days, the government introduced investment credits that weakened the market mechanism itself. Now, this is important. A carbon market only works if scarcity drives behavior. If companies face real compliance costs, they reduce emissions. But Alberta's market was already weak because there was an oversupply of credits and too many flexible compliance mechanisms. Then the government weakened it further. In other words, Alberta accepted the political benefits of the agreement while quietly hollowing out the policy architecture underneath it. That is not good faith implementation. That is tactical compliance. Same story with methane regulations. Alberta negotiated an equivalency agreement with Ottawa that supposedly aligned with a 75% methane reduction target. Then draft regulations appeared almost immediately that appeared inconsistent with achieving those outcomes. Again, the timing mattered. This was not a government trying and failing months later. This divergence happened almost instantly. The ink was barely dry. And that is when I concluded something fundamental. The issue was not policy complexity. The issue was credibility. Because governments acting in good faith do not behave like this.
And there you go. Danielle Smith enters into agreements she has no intention of upholding, if it gets her through the current moment. And again, I keep on referring back to David Klamahaga. Danielle Smith is not a particularly deep thinker. And everything she does is for the moment, and it seems to be working for her. As soon as they agreed to put a price on carbon, she started undermining that by changing the way the credit market worked to destroy the entire architecture under it. The second she agreed to methane reduction targets, she has her government put some draft regulations on methane emissions that compromise everything she agreed to. The second that she signs an implementation agreement, she declares a referendum that will stifle any potential investment. She promised that she would have a private proponent, but the terms keep on changing, where it seems that they'll be able to access a whole bunch of different types of funds. She's probably going to not find a private proponent and create some type of provincial crown corporation, which was not what was originally promised, and try to force it through that way. She respects nothing. Just like Trump, her signature on a piece of paper means nothing. A promise from her lasts as long as she wants it to, if it lasts at all. She's not a reliable partner. She's just not a reliable partner, shape or form. And she can't be trusted. And people have been seeing it for some time now. In other things that we wanted to touch on today, because we're talking about, acting with class or being an ass. We want to touch very briefly on where the UCP appears to be standing on national unity, because we got word yesterday that even though Danielle Smith said that she's a federalist and that she would be campaigning so much for Canada, while she's simultaneously going to all the town halls and campaigning on her 9 other referendum questions that are explicitly anti-Canada. And again, for the purpose, as Mr. Hislop stated, of just constantly undermining the Federation and any authority of institutions or the federal government. The party president didn't seem to be on the same page when it comes to would the party actually stand up for Canada, as Miss Smith claimed that it would. President of the party, Rob Smith, no relation, I believe, I think, put out some type of statement indicating that as a party, the UCP would, I believe is the word, remain neutral when it comes to this, which is not what was promised. Sean Amato from Global News. Despite what UCP President Rob Smith told news outlets earlier this week, the party now says it's aligned with the Premier's stance on the referendum. So that switched somewhere along the way. But yesterday, that's not what they were saying at all. Yesterday, they were saying essentially, for all intents and purposes, that the fact that so many people of the party, well, I guess they weren't saying the fact that so many people in the party were separatists. But we know, based on public opinion polling, and Janet Brown, again, is one of the best public opinion pollsters in Canada, but particularly she knows that province like the back of her hand. That, yeah, because of that, the party was going to be remaining neutral, which was a really interesting position, considering that they're claiming to be a federalist party. So how do you, as a federalist party, start a pro-separation referendum and then claim to be agnostic somehow about it? Nobody really knows how many Albertans want this, of course, because, as we said, Danielle Smith claims that she has 700,000, but she really has 0. verified signatures in favor of this type of referendum. We have Indigenous groups very much opposing what is going on. The Treaty 8 First Nations of Alberta sent something the other day as well. Saying at the end of it, Treaty 8 First Nations will also be formally writing to the Prime Minister requesting that Alberta's proposed referendum question be reviewed by Parliament in accordance with the requirements of the Clarity Act, what the Premier has called is not just an Alberta question, but it's a question for all Canadians. And that the Chiefs of Treaty 8 will be holding media scrum next week to publicly address the concerns. The Prime Minister we showed it to you, that he was wondering if the Clarity Act would have to apply, that we'd have to do his duty on that. We saw the Bloc Québécois MP Christine Normandin come out and on that and basically blast that with some claims that were a little dubious. And then the Prime Minister, apparently it was revealed, I think it was the day before yesterday, that indeed the way that the question is formulated does not make it such that the Clarity Act has to be invoked here. Now, whether one agrees with that or not, I would say that it should, given that this question, if it goes one way, does lead to a process that the Premier has claimed that she would be bound by, even though referendums are not binding in Canada. But that she would be bound by it, and given that she declared that she would be bound by it, one of those options wouldn't necessarily lead to an option that would require the Clarity Act. So the question was whether or not we would just nip it in the bud now, given that this eventually gets there, or whether or not we would literally parse this out and say, well, given that this particular vote does not lead to an actual thing that is constitutional, the Clarity Act does not apply. It would appear that we have decided to take the position that we are going to deal with this in isolation and not what it is that can be as a result. And therefore, it does not, Clarity Act does not apply in this case. So that will not be a way to stop it. Which is a shame. But on the other hand, as I was mentioning, maybe not the best time to bring that up right now as well, because there is a portion of this that it's not about not provoking the separatists, right? We don't have to worry about the separatists. We know where we stand. It's the group of soft federalists, soft conservative voting federalists who may be a little bit anti-Ottawa, a little bit anti-liberal, and saying, hey, yes, there is no cost to this. Let's send a message. Those are the ones that we have to try to engage in this without commenting on people claiming like they're stupid or, being insulting or having a tone that's aggressive. Because that's not going to be helpful. And it's, again, not the separatists. I'm all for pissing off separatists and putting it in their face that they're lying. But they're not the ones whose votes we are concerned about at the moment. So yeah, it's really interesting to be watching the president of the UCP not first trying to back out of the commitment to be fighting for Canada on this. It seems that, according to the Canadian press, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is at odds with the president of her own party on the issue of the province quitting Canada. Rob Smith, the president of the United Conservative Party, has said the UCP will not take a position on the upcoming referendum regarding whether Alberta should stay in Canada. Premier Smith, however, begs to differ. Speaking in a radio interview on Wednesday with host Shay Ganam on QR Calgary and 880 CHD, Smith said she is the one who speaks for the party, and the party's position is Alberta stays in Canada. Given what she's done, people are wondering if she really does speak for the party. It doesn't seem that she is the one who speaks for the party anymore. Our party had as its founding principles that we support autonomy for Alberta within the United Canada. It's right in our founding principles. Every one of my MLAs got elected on that, said Smith. That's why I say that our party, our caucus, and our government are on board with working on what we need to do to remain in Canada to address the legitimate concerns that Albertans have. Well, if you want us to believe that, Miss Smith, maybe the first thing you need to do is fire Mr. Smith. The president of the UCP, who was not related to Danielle Smith, could not be immediately reached for reaction to the Premier's comments. Gee, I wonder why. During the interview, Smith was also asked about some of the challenges that Alberta would face if the province eventually decided to separate from Canada. Quote, there's massive startup costs. I mean, remember, we have never had national defense. We don't have independent courts. Those would have to be set up. We don't have border control. I don't know how many folks who go and regularly visit his family in Saskatchewan and British Columbia would want to show passports and have to stop at the border, said Smith. These are the very practical things that they've discovered in the United Kingdom, that none of the promises of windfalls panned out, but a whole bunch of irritations ended up coming up that prevented them from being able to expand trade, travel freely, work freely, own houses in Spain. Those are the things I want people to understand. Again, Danielle Smith confuses me because now she actually is sounding a bit like a federalist. I can't tell with her. But yes, she probably should get rid of Rob Smith, because he clearly is not in lockstep with the leader of the party. But yeah, it appears that the UCP doesn't actually know where it stands anymore, and that there's clearly lots of infighting going on inside. This is not no longer a stable organization or a stable party by any stretch of the imagination. And that also is not good for the investment climate. Kit to Jillian here. Danny has pissed off everyone in her party with her federalist protestations. Yes. Kit says, ooh, there's some trouble in paradise for Danielle. Yeah, there is, actually. And that's not only the bit of trouble in paradise for Danielle, but it appears that there is some public opinion polling that comes out. From Rukshar Ali of CBC News. As an October referendum on the future of Alberta separation looms, new polling finds 3 in 5 Albertans say that they would vote to stay in Canada, while more than half of Albertans feel Premier Danielle Smith has handled the issue poorly. On Thursday, Smith announced she's planning to put a question on the fall referendum ballot that will ask Albertans if they want the province to remain in Canada or if they want a future binding referendum on separation. According to a poll from the Angus Reid Institute released Monday, 60% of respondents would vote no to the official referendum question, compared to 35% who would vote yes. Now, if you're wondering, 35%, wait a minute, I thought it was like 21 to 27%, and that number is like a needle on the record. There's a reason for that. I was listening to an interview on a podcast called The Decibel, which is from the Globe and Mail, and they had somebody from the Globe and Mail who was speaking on behalf of the editorial board. And in that conversation, I learned that the question that Danielle Smith asked was not a question that she felt she needed to come up with at the last second, given that the court decision thwarted her ability to use the separatists, the Stay Free Alberta or Centurion Project, or whatever their question is, but that this was a question that she had actually been focus testing for months. And the reason this particular question with this particular wording was picked is because it was tricky and unclear and convoluted enough that it is the type of question that, rather than getting the support of 21 to 25 to 27% of the people, depending on what you believe that number is, would get 36%. Because it is mushy enough. She literally focus tested various questions so that she could find the one that would confuse the people the most, so that she could start the campaign with the highest percentage possible and then hope to bump that up to more than 50 as it goes on. This is a question she just didn't just, oh, let's say if we ask this question. This is a question that was in the works. It's been engineered for maximum anti-Canadian support. But when asked a simpler hypothetical question about whether to leave Canada or stay, support for separation decreased and Federalist sentiment, with 30% choosing to leave and 67% opting to stay. Now, why would a Federalist choose a question that's more likely to break Canada apart? And why go through the pain of focus testing it to find out which one, if you are actually a Federalist? It's unbelievable. Shashi Kerr, president of Angus Reid Institute, told CBC's RT Pool that responses to both poll questions indicate overwhelming majorities don't want to leave Canada. Quote, one of the biggest takeaways here is when you ask a simpler question, and albeit hypothetical, you see the number of people who say they'd vote to stay shoot right up to 67%. The latest survey by Angus Reid was conducted online from May 22nd to 24. It polled a randomized sample of 800 Albertan adults and has a margin of error of plus or minus 3 percentage points 19 times out of 20. A little more than half of Albertans polled said they found the official question confusing. Quote, question wording matters, said Lisa Young, a professor of political science at the University of Calgary, in reference to the discrepancy between the response to the official question and Angus Reid's simplified one. The official 37-word question would ask, should Alberta remain a province of Canada, or should the government of Alberta commence the legal process required under the Canadian Constitution? There is no such thing. To hold a binding, there is no such thing. Provincial referendum on whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada. Young warned that could potentially influence how people vote in October. Quote, people are reading their own interpretation into what that question means. Now we're going to have the next 5 months to talk about what the various options actually mean, so that may move people a little bit. I wonder if some people who are just tuning into this conversation think, well, there's no harm in having another referendum and keeping the conversation going. 56% of poll respondents said that Smith has handled the issue poorly, including nearly a third of UCP voters. If you're someone who is already inclined to not want to vote for the UCP and Danielle Smith, you're going to say that she's done a bad job, and we see that, Curl said, with the poll showing most Albertan NDP voters responding very poorly to poorly. At the same time, she said there's a significant segment of UCP voters who feel that this has been mishandled, so Smith is being squeezed by criticism from both sides. Oh, what a shame. You have true hardcore separatists, people who really follow the Alberta Prosperity Project, saying, she's not calling a simple question, she's not calling a yes or no question, so there's that level of unhappiness. Young said, in some ways, the poll validates the analysis that we've seen that suggests that almost everyone is angry at Danielle Smith about this because she's trying to have it both ways so that she could remain blameless because, again, she put herself at the center of all of it. This is a question based on the desires of one person only. One signature only, her own. When we look at the numbers about anger at Smith, she has retained support among many Conservatives or UCP voters, but has perhaps engendered some anger from a smaller group of deeply committed separatists. The poll also suggested 33% of respondents who voted for the UCP in 2023 view the referendum as a move by Smith to appease the separatists in her party. And while Smith has previously stated she supports Alberta staying in Canada and will campaign for the Remain side, 40% of Albertans polled indicated the Premier's motivations are predicated on her keeping her job, the Institute's report said. And if a lot of these people truly believe that and don't want to reward her for that, unlike certain other provinces, well, that they have the new progressive Tory party under Pete Guthrie, who used to be a cabinet minister in her government, to vote for. Nearly half of those surveyed said Smith should resign. Ooh. Curl said that speaks to a broader challenge Smith will continue to have in trying to walk a line between keeping the separatist forces within her own party and her own segment base, the Federalists, on side. The poll also found that decided voters were nearly split on the party they'd vote for in event that an election were called today. And this is the good news, most good news I have for you, kids and cubs, on the subject, because, again, As we know, Angus Reid is opinion polling that tends to lean conservative. So when Angus Reid shows numbers that may be concerning for conservatives, we pay a little more attention to them because we're not expected to see that. These days, it seems to be Angus Reid and Abacus polling in particular that tend to be outliers. Traditionally, Angus Reid, now a little more Abacus, that tend to be outliers, showing more support or more persistent support for conservatives than other ones are showing. But this one is stating that if an election were held today, Kits and Cubs, and this is in the context of a lot of people saying that the Danielle Smith's best asset for remaining premier happens to be Naheed Nenshi. Oh, well, look at what's this? What's Angus Reid saying? That if an election were held today, the UCP would get 46% of the vote, the NDP would get 45. What? The ABP, which I'm going to guess is the Alberta Party, would get 4%. WLC, I have no idea what that is. Is that the Wild Rose Party? What's that? Wild Rose Loyalty Coalition. Okay. And ABP, not the Alberta beef producers, but how about in politics? What is that? I'm not sure what the ABP party, whether or not that is the Alberta Party or whether or not that is the new Progressive Tory Party of Alberta. If I could find a logo for each, I would be able to tell you. Alberta Party logo, or maybe if there's some people from Alberta watching. Yeah, I think it's more Alberta Party from what I can tell here. But yeah, that is, and then others at 2%. Not good news for Danielle Smith, especially if that starts replicating. I wonder what a 46 to 45 poll would look like in terms of seat distributions. I have a feeling that whatever seats the UCP might have in at least the Calgary and Edmonton areas could be affected. There could be some other urban areas, maybe like Lethbridge or Medicine Hat. Not big burgeoning metropolises, but still, with a good, decent size urban population that could be some swing seats there. But that is definitely not great news for Danielle Smith. That there could be the type for her. On Monday, Prime Minister Mark Carney said Smith's referendum question is, quote, not helpful, and that votes like this are a dangerous bluff, citing the Brexit referendum in 2016 as an example. Looking at how different age demographics responded to the poll, Young said she sees an interesting parallel to the vote patterns in Brexit, as older Albertans were more likely to vote for separation than younger ones. In response to the simplified question of separation, 20% of Albertans between 18 to 34 said they would vote to leave Canada, while 38% over 55 responded the same way. Of course, the 38% over 55 have had nearly 50 years of them being told every day that the federal government is their enemy. So, yeah. It's this question where, older people are favoring the more radical outcome, which young people have to live with the consequences, said Young. The poll also found out that 7 out of 10 respondents believe separatists will never accept the outcome if Albertans vote against advancing the separation process. Of those who would vote to separate in a hypothetical future referendum, 41% of people said they would not accept the outcome. There we go. Of those who would vote to separate, 41% of people say they would not accept the outcome. Wow. If Albertans vote against starting the separation process, while 45% would, Albertans will be able to vote on whether or not they want the province to hold a binding referendum on separating from Canada on October 19th. So, yeah, not a great news for Danielle Smith and the UCP at all in any way, shape, or form on this issue. Let's see. What if for you today? I got already at 2 hours and a half. That went really fast today. Let's see. What else do I have for you? Because I think there was one more topic I wanted to touch upon today, if I am not mistaken. And just trying to see if I can find my episode description to help with that. And apparently not. It's a very strange day here, kids and cubs. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me go take a check at my episode description. Oh, yes, was the lawful access thing that I wanted to mention. It seems that, again, that bill on lawful access is causing a little bit of consternation, of course, and it would seem that the federal government has indeed heard the criticism and will be acting on it. According to Catherine Tunney of CBC News, the Liberal government says it will amend its hot button lawful access legislation, which would make it easier for police and spies to tap private communications, as it faces blowback from critics who argue the bill would actually put cybersecurity at risk. Public Safety Minister Gary Anand-Ansangri, Bill C-22's sponsor, told reporters on Wednesday he'll propose amendments to better safeguard encryption and clarify what metadata has to be stored by tech and telecommunication companies, but remained firm that the bill would become law. This is something that needs to happen, he said. Bill C-2022, my God, I'm having trouble today. Bill C-22 promises to help law enforcement and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service obtain digital information during investigations, something the security community has been pushing for since the late 1990s. The second half of the bill has attracted the most scathing commentary. It would force yet to be defined electronic service providers to adapt their systems so they all have the ability to hand over information to investigators with a warrant. The bill would also require core providers to retain metadata, which can include information such as who is sending and receiving data for up to 1 year. Bill C-22 gives the Minister of Public Safety the power to issue ministerial orders on providers to, for example, retrieve data or trace a device. The Intelligence Commissioner, a quasi-judicial body, would have to approve the action. While the bill does allow providers to make their case if they don't agree with the government's direction, they are prohibited from disclosing information about the order. Those elements have attracted attention from some of the largest tech companies in the world, the Federal Privacy Commissioner, and lawmakers south of the border. They all share concerns that the bill's technological demands would weaken or break encryption, a key safety measure used by activists, lawmakers, journalists, and everyday Canadians to safeguard communications and other important information. Quote, when you build a backdoor into an encrypted device, anyone can walk through, and because so much depends on encryption, we can't take that risk. Eric Neuenschwander, Apple's Senior Director of User Privacy and Child Safety, testified before a parliamentary committee on Tuesday. A Google representative told the same committee that Canada's proposed legislation goes further than its allies and, quote, could facilitate foreign interference and weaken global user privacy. Amendments are due Wednesday night, but Anand-Ansangri said the government will propose changes, quote, to ensure there's clarity on what encryption is and better define metadata in the legislation. Quote, we would ensure that that metadata piece is in line with our U.S. counterparts' language in their bill, he said. Anand-Ansangri's office later clarified to CBC News that he was referring to the U.S. law's encryption provisions, not metadata. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said his party will have to see if the amendments are enough for his MPs to support the bill. Quote, so far, we're extremely suspicious, he said, suggesting the Liberal government is creating, quote, a surveillance state. God, instead of protecting Canadians from criminals. Both the NDP and Green Party leaders also came out against the bill, but with a majority, the Liberals can pass the bill through the House with the only support of their own party. The minister stopped short of calling the multi-billion-dollar companies that have lined up against the bill hypocritical, but questioned their commitment to privacy. Quote, I think there's a number of areas of misinformation, he said. We're living in a world where big techs, whether it is Apple, Google, or the range of other big tech companies, are operating without any type of accountability. Police and CSIS have gone on the record saying they are outpaced by evolving technology, which they argue is putting public safety at risk. Last year, one of the country's intelligence watchdogs put out flare warnings in the public. Canada's security organizations face significant challenges detecting and responding to security threats because of legislative gaps and outdated resources limiting when and how they can access private messages. Quote, the committee is concerned by the lawful access challenges described by the security and intelligence community and the longstanding inability of successive governments to address them, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians said. That's NSICOP. They state that encryption and the increasing volume, variety, and velocity of digitally generated data make it difficult and sometimes impossible to gather the information needed to carry out effective investigations. Successive governments have tried and failed to update Canada's lawful access regime. Bill C-22 is the Carney government's second attempt after an earlier bill folded under pressure to retract what was widely considered to be overly intrusive search powers. The Conservatives under Stephen Harper also tried to reform access to digital evidence in 2012, which notoriously tanked after Minister Victez accused privacy critics of standing, quote, with the child pornographers. Because, yes, back in the 2010s, that was the Conservative play. If you disagreed with them, you were a child pornographer supporter or somebody who supported child pornographers. And then in the 2020s, they just straight out moved out to referring to people as pedos and groomers rather than supporters. But yes, that was a go-to play for them, particularly for anything online. So yeah, and it's amazing how when the Conservatives want to change lawful access regulations and people disagree with them, they support child pornographers. And then when the Liberals do it, the Liberals want to create a surveillance state. Because today's Conservatives, like Danielle Smith, have completely no values, no morals, no moral compass, no principles. It is merely whatever allows us to take a swipe at somebody today. And if that is diametrically opposed to what we said yesterday when we were taking a swipe at the same people, we pretend that we don't notice it, because zero lack of self-awareness and zero shame are the basic prices of entry now to be a politician in Canadian Conservative movement. And a lot of performative stuff. Motions and demanding apologies and holding letters up while scowling at the camera. Yes, I'm looking at you, Aaron Gunn. Is it okay if I said to Aaron Gunn you would be much prettier if you smiled? He's always scowling, looks like he's in a bad mood. Just every time I see a picture of him, unless he's sticking it to someone, then he's happy. He looks like somebody just pooped in his cornflakes. Every single time. It's literally impossible to be that enraged and stern all the time. Come on, Aaron, lighten up. Lay off hating Indigenous people for a few hours. Maybe it might change your mood. Just saying. Oh my word. I think, kids and cubs, that might be the big stuff that I have for you today. Just going to take a little look here at my notes to make sure I touched upon everything today. And because I don't want to leave a stone unturned here. I promised more WOB, I think, and I didn't bring it to you. I'm so sorry. That was probably that interview he gave to Vashi Kapelos the other day, yesterday. Kind of do want to put it in there for you, but I'm already at 2:30, and that will send me way over 3, and I'm really trying to get done under 3 today, if I can. Let me apologize for the tease. I will give you more WOB tomorrow, hopefully. I will have time to bring you that instead then, so that we can finish this off at a nice and a little more normal hour than we have been for the last little bit. Just going to take a check here to see if there isn't anything incoming at the last minute that I need to deal with you. A couple of little bit of news here. It seems that we are Germany is sweetening the pot with regard to the submarine deal that we are looking to get into. We're trying to decide between Germany and South Korea, I believe. Mark Carney is currently was going to be in New York today to pitch Canada as an investment hub, which could be an interesting move here. Let's see, what else do we have here in the news very quickly. It seems that there will be a refreshed national AI strategy that will be released next week. So there we have that. Of course, the news that we brought to you yesterday that Canada is negotiating to buy SAB's Global Eye airborne early warning aircraft. That is very important. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Those are the main things. There is one more thing on lawful access that I should probably bring you before we go. This is a courtesy of Catherine Tunney, and it says detractors and defenders of a Liberal government bill promising law enforcement and intelligence agencies easier access to Canadians' information during investigations made their pitches Tuesday to MPs weighing on whether it should be amended. So this is in a committee. Testifying at the tail end of a marathon public safety committee meeting Tuesday evening, the Canadian Telecommunications Association Vice President Eric Smith summed up the issue facing lawmakers studying Bill C-22, how to balance privacy rights with law enforcement and national security agencies' ability to access information. That balance is critically important because Canadians use digital services every day. The lawful access legislation would require yet to be defined electronic service providers to adapt their systems to make it easier to hand over requested information to security and intelligence officials provided they have a warrant. A little aside here, I have no idea why it is that governments would table a bill that asks electronic service providers to do something and not define what that is, and then ask people to amend and make votes. You don't even know who the bill applies to yet. How do you know what to amend? This is pure silliness. The bill would also require core providers to retain metadata like call logs and location for up to 1 year, and they didn't define specifically what metadata was, I think, as well here. The government has argued it lags behind its Five Eyes intelligence partners by not having an updated lawful access regime to help law enforcement and intelligence services access digital information during investigations. That has stirred up intense backlash from major tech companies like Google, Apple, and Meta to privacy advocates who all argue the bill's demands would weaken or break encryption, a key safety measure used by activists, lawmakers, journalists, and everyday Canadians to safeguard communications and other important information. Apple depends on its security technology, quote, to store and process highly sensitive data like health metrics, photos, and the locations of our loved ones, Eric Neuenschwander, the company's senior director of user privacy and child safety, told the committee. As technology evolves, so do the bad actors trying to steal our data. We do not know of a way to deploy encryption technology that provides access only for the good guys without creating new ways for the bad guys to break in. Google said Canada's proposed legislation goes further than its allies. Quote, without stronger definitions, the law could be used to force the dismantling of critical privacy architecture, such as breaking encryption, overriding users' data deletion controls, or building remote access capability, all of which could facilitate foreign interference and weaken global user privacy, Jeanette Patel, Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy for Google in Canada, argued. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandan-Sangri has repeated that it's not the government's intention to weaken privacy protections like encryption. Both Apple and Google executives told the committee that should be made more clear in the legislation. The committee heard a similar request from Meta. Federal Privacy Commissioner Philippe Dufresne said he also has concern. He told the committee that he was consulted by the government after its first attempt at bringing in a lawful access bill, Bill C-2, and folded under backlash. It was amended and reintroduced as Bill C-22 earlier this year, but there remains privacy concerns, he told the committee. Dufresne put forward 8 recommendations, including narrowing the definition of subscriber information to just names, addresses, and telephone numbers and IP addresses, and limiting the entities who would be compelled to provide that information to telecommunication services providers. He also said the bill's technical obligations on electronic providers should be, quote, be limited to what is necessary and proportionate. The longer you keep information, the more there's a risk in terms of privacy breach, the more there's an impact if there is a privacy breach, Dufresne told the committee. Law enforcement agencies and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service have argued that public safety is at risk if Canada doesn't pass a lawful access regime, arguing they are outpaced by evolving technology, hampering their ability to investigate criminal and national security cases. During a separate round of testimony, Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police President and Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Thomas Carrique told the committee that concerns by some major telecommunications companies and special interest privacy advocates are overstated. Quote, too often lawful access debates focus exclusively on privacy interests of suspects and the financial interests of big tech while overlooking the rights of victims to safety, justice, and timely intervention. Bill C-22 ensures electronic service providers are not serving as a safe haven for criminal and terrorist-related activity, compromising public safety locally, nationally, and internationally. During an exchange with Neuenschwander, Liberal MP Anthony Housefather suggested some of the tech giants' concerns are what's best for their company's interests and not necessarily in the national interest. Quote, I don't disagree with some of the objections you raised, but there are claims that are being made, for example, surveillance equipment being installed in devices that I don't think are reasonable or logical, he said. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown, who has seen a spate of violent extortion attempts in his city, also testified in favor of the bill and urged the committee to not dither or delay. Quote, this could be the most significant investigative tool for police since DNA evidence changed the game, he said. Organized crime does not want Canada to update our lawful access legislation. They've been able to frankly conduct criminal activity with impunity in our country. Police have their hands tied. The Communications Security Establishment, or the CSE, the country's foreign signals intelligence agency, and the government's cybersecurity authority said the bill doesn't create, quote, backdoors, as some have argued. A backdoor creates a lasting generalized vulnerability that can be exploited by malicious actors. Lawful access under C-22, by contrast, is intended to obtain limited and specific information held by an electronic service provider via controlled, authorized requests without undermining cybersecurity, the agency said in a written submission to the committee. Strong encryption is fundamental to Canada's cybersecurity, economic stability, and national security. Conservative MP Frank Caputo, the party's public safety critic, suggested Monday the opposition will be floating amendments to codify encryption protections. If you happen to be in a riding represented by Mr. Caputo, you have my sympathies. Not a particularly good MP. Quote, Canadians want to know that their end-to-end encryption won't be targeted, he said. The British Columbia MP said Conservatives on committee are looking to, quote, get the best bill possible, adding the Liberals, quote, have really dropped the ball in both drafting and explaining C-22. The committee heard from dozens of witnesses over the span of 3 meetings. Tuesday's hearing was the last scheduled before MPs consider whether changes should be made to the controversial bill. Conservatives are pushing to extend the debate, arguing the controversial bill is being rammed through Parliament. The meeting was adjourned before the issue was sorted. Anandan Sangri has suggested publicly that he's open to amendments. His office has also said he hopes to pass the bill before the Parliament's summer break, which would be in the next few weeks. So they better get cracking if they're going to resolve these pretty significant differences and actually address these, again, pretty important concerns. All right. So I believe that is all that I had for you kids and cubs. We hope that you enjoyed this show because we enjoyed making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, there's a few ways you can do that. One of the ways is by scanning this QR code, which will bring you to our YouTube page. Like, share, and subscribe. Please click the buttons. Also, please click on the alarm and select all from the drop-down menu so that you receive notices when we put new stuff up so that you can find us, given that finding us has been much more difficult since April 15th. And so we're trying to find ways that we can encourage you, make it such that you do not miss us, regardless of what happens. So that might be a way to do that. If you are watching on your phone and you're not watching live, and you're watching within 7 days of the broadcast, if you swipe the comment section left, you will see the opportunity to grant us some hype points. That helps smaller channels like us become more noticed. If you can give us some hype points, that would be great. You can only do that 3 times per week, however. So just wanted you to know that. But please share the content all you can, and if you include a little bit, a little word saying what it is that you like the content, that is more likely to get a flow through click than just an impression on the screen. So please, thank you for all you're doing to share the content. If you would like to support us in other ways, financially, for example, if you scan this QR code, that will bring you to our coffee page or the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, where you can offer us a toonie or loonie, a few more if you would like, in exchange for that we would exchange for a cup of coffee, a cup of hot chocolate, which helps us, write, edit, produce, promote everything that we do with the show. So thank you for your support. And if there's a little extra, well, then we use it for internet fees and subscriptions and stuff of the like, which again, very, very important. And we thank you for your ongoing support, particularly through these more difficult times. If you donate through our coffee page, we get about 95 to 97% of your donation. Through our YouTube page, we have stickers, super chats, and memberships. We get about 70% of your donation. But if you're buying Canadian, then a direct bank transfer from yours to ours using the address truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is the best way to get something to us. And we get 100% of your donation in those instances. So that's a very good deal indeed. If you want, if you're not able to help us financially, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us, and we want to hear from you. So a little Beaver Lodge tariff. How about using our email address and sending us what you think about the show, or some questions about the show, or questions about politics you'd like us to answer, or some guest suggestions for the interview project, or just some good news to help us get through the doom scrolling. All of that, you can send it to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you're looking for us at our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge on the Jitter, we got the Damn Fam Discord, we got Beaver Bites, our Substack, we got the Damn Fam Instagram run by Kit Uncover. Our coffee page, of course, where you can reach us, our home on Facebook, which is our original place. All these places where you can find us. We do read all of your comments, even though we're not able to answer every single one. And remember our hashtags: Kids Who Cook, Kids Who Cultivate, and Kids Who Craft. If you happen to be working on any of that, we love seeing what you're up to, and sometimes it gives us ideas as well. So thank you for any suggestions that you make. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. We do actually have 3 petitions for you today, because I found the third one that I was looking for, and it came to us courtesy of. So why not start with the new, if you would like today, because for a change, Kit Hugh has been circulating a petition here. It's House of Commons, or ourcommons.ca petition E7124. And this one, kids and cubs, states, hopefully it will come up on my page soon, because all I have is a redirect. Notice. Let's try that one more time. Nope. Okay. It does not want to link. So let's try this. Our Commons 7124. And bring that up. There we go. There's always a way. There's always a way. If you have a little patience. And it seems that the internet search function might be down, because nothing is happening, or at least their site might be down. Our comment might be down. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Not sure how I'm going to present these petitions to you. So our comments, the whole our comments site is down. So I'm going to have to skip that for you today, kids and cubs. So sorry. If you are in British Columbia, we are the 28th today, 2 more days to get your vote in if you're voting for the BC Conservative Party leadership race. And of course, on the 29th, that would be tomorrow, throughout the province of Alberta, there is a massive strike against Danielle Smith, protest against Danielle Smith that is being called. So hopefully a lot of people will come out for that. On the 30th, one in Ontario against Doug Ford. And it would appear, if I'm not mistaken here, that the petitions have come back up. The site is back up again. Let's try that one more time and see if I can bring that for you. See, Kit Hugh's petition, House of Commons, ourcommons.ca petition E7124. Anybody? Really? No? Just me? Okay. Nope, they're not coming back here. All right. I don't know what to do about that. So hopefully they will work tomorrow. Words of wisdom. I'm a little bereft with everything that's going on the channel, and not as smooth a show today as I'd hope to deliver. Breathe. I'm going to have to do a lot of that today. Just try and stay calm. This too shall pass, I guess. I'm sorry. That's all I got for you. Canadians who make us proud. We got a wonderful suggestion from someone. I believe it was Kit Sylvie, who wanted us to mention a gentleman who participated in Ottawa Race Weekend. And this gentleman, his name is Roy Allen. And he decided that he was going to participate in the 5K race from Ottawa for Ottawa race weekend. And this is from Abyssinia Abebe. I love that name, from the Ottawa Citizen. It says Ottawa was on fire for Roy Allen on Saturday because it wasn't just because he did something no other Canadian his age had ever done before. It was because he did it with a huge smile on his face. Quote, almost every stranger who crossed Allen's path melted into a smile and a few broke down in tears. It's just really sweet, one woman shouted as she cheered Allen on. And the reason why is Mr. Allen is 100 years old. The centenarian made history on May 31st when he became the oldest person to walk the Tamarack Ottawa Race Weekend 5-kilometer race. Allen crossed the finish line in an hour, 47 minutes, 19 seconds, according to the Run Ottawa app that his grandson, Alan Bercier, 26, monitored throughout the event. Thousands signed up for this year's race weekend, and each one probably had personal goals and motivations. While some wanted to beat personal records, they all encouraged Allen on the journey to reach his. Allen's motivations were bigger than himself, and perhaps that was also why so many gravitated towards him as he gave back to a cause deeply personal for himself and his 94-year-old wife, Melba. They have benefited from 4 organizations that Allen's walk was raising funds: Council on Aging of Ottawa, the Pearly Health Foundation, where Melba Allen stays, Gloucester's 50 Plus Center, and the Dementia Society. Quote, he's a sweet man, Sarah Bercier said of her 100-year-old father as family members walked the 5K race with him. What you see is what you get. The Team 100 crowd was undeniable when the centenarian kickstarted his journey just after 4 p.m. Along the busier streets of Metcalfe and Wellington, the city was buzzing as Allen used his walker to make his way through the crowd. With every sharp turn into a busy corner, Allen became another stranger's favorite part of their day. The crowd would eventually fall quiet, yet Allen was never alone. Walking side by side with him were 8 members of his family: granddaughter Elizabeth, 17, grandsons Alain, Justin, and Mathieu, and Kevin Dutreville, Kevin's wife, Tonisha Dutreville, and daughter Sarah Bercier and her husband, Marc. Sarah, 59, grew emotional as she watched thousands of strangers cheer her dad, but it was in the quieter moments that she was able to admit to herself the weight of the moment. I was trying not to cry, she told the Ottawa Citizen near the 1-kilometer mark. Grandsons Justin and Mathieu, Bercier explained that family members would take turns taking Roy to the mall as he trained, but that they hadn't anticipated the uphill sections of the roadways or the course. Sarah said the secret to Roy's good health was that he never smoked or drank, and he smiled often. That was how Roy Allen proved Saturday that he was 100 years young. After the race, he said he planned to walk the event again next year. And kids and cubs, let's give the man his due here, since we're talking about Canadians who make us proud, and give him a little screen time, because listen, when I grow up, I think I want to be him. Based on this, that is dedication to your family and to your community, and giving back. So, Monsieur Roy Allen here, 100 years old, walking 5K to do some good. And since we're talking about why walking 5K to do some good, Kids and Cubs, June 20th, mental health walk. If you are able, if you are male or male identifying, and you have other male and male identifying friends who may not talk a lot about their mental health, why not pick up the phone and invite them to go out for a walk? If not on the 20th, on that weekend sometime. Make it 5K, make it a good, decent walk, and go out and have a chat. Check in. How's your mental health doing? We need to get men talking more about their mental health, particularly to their mates. Of course, if you don't have a mate, call anyone, right? It doesn't have to be another male or male identifying person. If you have a need, call someone, talk. But in the spirit of the walk, if you can, find another male or male identifying friend. Let's destigmatize. Let's show that it is not a sign of weakness to ask for help, to reach out, or just to say, you know what, I'm having a tough go of it, and just need to vent. And if you are the one who gets the call, lend an ear or a soft shoulder, or even if you're wondering about a friend, uh, proactively place the call yourself and say, "Hey, let's go for a walk." I was watching an interview with actually Kelly Rowland, who was from Destiny's Child, who was talking about um, her having becoming a mother and her mother having passed away very shortly after, and she didn't know how she would be able to cope with both. And apparently, she had a friend called her and said, "Girl, you have had all this stuff going on, and every time I talk to you, you keep on saying you're fine. What the hell is up with you?" And apparently that's what made her break. She broke out into crying because somebody called her out on the mask. So reach out. Okay, very, very important. So June 20th or that weekend, again, and if you have an organization that supports mental health, men's mental health in particular, but mental health, and you would like to make a contribution, this is not technically a fundraiser, but there are organizations that need your help. But if you do have one in your community and you support it, please do make the donation, but then please let us know that you've made us the donation, send us a copy of the receipt, and so that we can have an idea of what good this has done. And if you have walked, we ask if you can, if you're willing to take a picture and to post it on social media with the hashtag mental health walk. But if you don't and you're not comfortable with that, at least let us know that you did go for a walk and that you invited someone or someone's. But let us know. And we would be very happy for that. I am not, now my keyboard is not even typing the things that I wanted to type because I'm trying to post the thing hashtag mental health walk. And okay, that was very weird. In the chat function, it was not giving me a hashtag, but in my email, it is. Okay, but like I said, there is always a solution. So here it is. I was able to type it in another software and put it down right here. There you go. So please use the hashtag mental health walk. See, it didn't even come out right. The men is supposed to be capitalized, but it changed it on me. And yes, let us know what that that you have that you've participated in the weekend and or in the event, and that would mean the world to us. All right, that's all I got for you right now, kids and cuts. It could be a tough world out there, so please, please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of three, can I please get a Mr. Beaver? Please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Ah, there we go. Thank you so very much, kids and cubs. And since you asked so kindly, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo for you. We'll come back with a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Okay, again, very weird. I don't know if the credits skipped for you, but they did for me. That's why I'm very surprised, actually, being up on the screen again. Little bit of Canadians who make us proud. If you are following, as I am, the French Open, the there was, well, not too much yesterday involving Canadians that I hadn't already mentioned because most of the matches had taken place by the time the show was over. Today, there's a couple of things on the block. Felix Auger-Aliassime is currently on the court, lost his first set, so already one set down. Canadians are having a really tough time at the tournament this year. Victoria Mboko is supposed to play this afternoon, her second round against Katerina Siniakova. And then as for the rest, there's not too much Canadian content except for the qualification rounds for the juniors. And we have three young Canadians in the junior boys draw that are competing. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have a better experience. But what I'm looking at, two of the three have unfortunately lost their first round match today. The first one was, come on, let's see the name, Xavier Massot. So these are names that you might be hearing a lot about in the future. And then Mr. as well, Benjamin Hazard, despite being ranked number one in the qualification draw, did lose today. And another young man who goes by the name of, his last name Roussel, first name Felix, so another Felix, who, well, he's having a better day of it. He just served match point right now. And he'll be going on to the second round of qualifications. If he wins that, we'll enter the main draw. So that's what's going on at the French Open. Of course, if you are a fan of the Montréal Canadien, you are really worried today because once again, the Canadiens lost third match in a row. First time in a long time that they've lost three matches in a row. And it's particularly interesting that they've lost them against the Carolina Hurricanes because up until the first match that they lost in the series, they hadn't lost to them all season long. It's almost like the Montréal Canadiens have lost their steam a bit, particularly the shots on goal are almost non-existent. And I do not know how you expect to win a playoff game if you're not shooting on goal. But I think yesterday we found out why it is that the Canadiens may have lost. It appears that some people decided to attend the event. Not going to give any volume there, but yeah, perhaps they jinxed it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Somebody also sent me a picture of Danielle Smith with the Edmonton Oilers jersey and her thumbs up last year. I think when the Edmonton Oilers were in the final round. And again, seems like somebody jinxed it. So if the Montréal Canadiens don't pick up three in a row here, that might be it for us while here when it comes to hockey, with the exception of the men who are playing at the IIHF World Championships, where Canada did win its last match of the round robin against the Czech Republic, and Switzerland beat Finland because they were tied in their last match to finish atop of their pool, thus making it such that we were scheduled to play Team USA in the first round of the playoffs. Again, I'm watching a grid here, and I do not know how it works this way, how the first place teams in both divisions end up playing each other in the semifinals, unless the grid has not been accurately represented here, because normally they're in opposite sides of the playoff draws. But currently, after with at the 12-minute mark in the second period, sorry, Canada is leading the United States 2-0. May this trend continue, so that we can advance to the semifinal. That's what we have going on for you today. And I guess, is there anything more from the Memorial Cup happening? Yes. No matches tonight. It's a night off, but it seems that the main draw has been decided. The Kitchener Rangers have finished atop of the standings in pool play, so they get a direct bye to the final. And the Chicoutimi Saguenay and Everett Silvertips will be playing in the semifinal, and whoever wins that gets to play in the big final. So, once the IIHF and the Memorial Cup are over, if the Montréal Canadiens don't continue to the final round, that's pretty much the end of the hockey season as far as we're concerned as Canadians, unless you happen to be a Canadian who happens to be a fan of either the Vegas Golden Knights, who are now in the final after sweeping the Avalanche 4-0, or the Carolina Hurricanes. There's probably not much for you as a Canadian to be watching the Stanley Cup final at that point, unless you just love hockey, period. Then that's always a good reason. But yes, it looks like our season may be cut a little shorter than we want to, and well, that's very sad. All right, that's all I have for you today. And again, you know what? There we go. I finally found my words of wisdom. Be a Roy Allen. There you go. Be like Roy. Find a cause that you care about. In our case, mental health walk. In your case, it may be something else. Find a cause that you support, and then go out and do something in support of it. There you go. Especially if it's an organization that has helped you or your family or someone you love, why not help it back? There you go. Those are much better words of wisdom, aren't they? All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Amour et bisous. Wanting to get under 3 hours. Didn't happen. Of course, I talked to you maybe a little too long about what was going on with the internet throttling and all that kind of stuff. But thank you for listening. I shouldn't have taken that much time on the show with it. But I was disconcerted, and I'm glad that you were there to let me talk about it and to send me those kind words. So that will do me for the rest of the day. That's a little boost. Thank you. And like I said, amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.